Chapter 1387. In the depths of the void, there were more than tens of millions of bright god gates that were falling ruthlessly. In addition, Wally was in the Silver Extreme Tyrannosaurus mode at this moment. His body was already huge, so he suddenly became the best target to attract firepower. Boom, boom, boom. Wally was not a pushover. He, who had experienced hundreds of battles, also noticed the bright god gates that were falling from the void. He controlled his huge body to avoid the bombardment of the bright god gates. However, the idea was good, but the reality was cruel. Dustless just sneered and made another hand gesture. Wally's body was like a magnetic field. Wherever he flew, the bright god gates would follow. Ka. Unable to evade, she was finally struck by the bright deity gate. The powerful force forced her to fall to the ground. The gorgeous silver armor on her body was covered in filth, and there were even some parts that were smashed into pieces. These damn things are so powerful. Wally's eyes narrowed. His expression was slightly gloomy as he stared at Dustless. He tried to stand up, but he was shocked to find that the magic power in his body was quickly dissipating. These red what can absorb my magic power. Finally, Wally could no longer keep calm. His tone was raised by several notches. His body seemed to be full of countless holes. His magic power leaked out crazily, and more than half of it was absorbed in a dozen seconds. What would happen if a few minutes passed? He might even be squeezed into a dried husk. Ayo. Wally resisted with all his strength, and his body exploded with superdimensional power. He came here today to find Dustless, to completely end his relationship with him, not to stay here and make a fool of himself. Especially the audience who wanted to see him make a fool of himself was the person Wally hated the most, Dustless. Buzz. Wally's huge body rippled, and the surrounding space was distorted. Everything that came into contact with the ripples on Wally's body shrunk incredibly. White Dragon Emperor's domain. Wally raised his head and roared. The bright god gates that were binding his body also shrunk. The most important thing was that the force that suppressed Wally was getting smaller and smaller. The pressure on Wally was much less. Boom, boom, boom. The mighty and extraordinary dragon body burst out with unimaginable power. Wally finally tore apart the suppression of the bright god gate and turned into a devastating and dazzling fluorescent light that swept into the sky. There's still some time before the moon falls. I should use this time to destroy the evil Dustless. That way, the meteorite might stop falling and the world will return to normal. Compared to the Dustless, the horror in Calamity Orb is too kind. White Dragon Emperor Wally said. No matter how crazy the people from the disaster group were, they wouldn't go to the extent of digging their own graves. However, Dustless, who prided himself on being righteous, did just that. Today, I will rid the world of evil and kill you, the most evil person in the world. Entering the Silver Tyrannosaurus mode, Wally's limbs were almost identical to a dragon's. He stretched out his sharp claws and shrouded Dustless. White Dragon Emperor's domain. A wave of energy rippled, and the void within Varley's body that had stopped previously began to distort again. This special domain gradually expanded, 1 meter, 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters. The energy ripples endlessly spread, and Varley wanted to completely distort this dimension. Didn't I just slap his face a few times, trick Black go over, and kill Beautiful Monkey? That's all. I don't seem to have done anything outrageous. Dustless said helplessly, expressing his innocence. Leave it to me. I'm your bodyguard now. The infinite dragon god, Orpheus, took a step forward. Her cute little face was filled with calmness. She was directly affected by Wally's White Dragon Emperor's domain, but her body was not affected at all. It was enough to prove the power of the infinite dragon god, Orpheus. Even the White Dragon Emperor Arubian in his prime was no match for the infinite dragon god, Orpheus. Sorry, I never like to let others deal with my enemies. Let me think about how to deal with him. Dustless's head turned. His left, I was the reincarnation Sharingan, and his right, I was the legendary Tensegan. The two completely different eyes looked particularly evil. Pah! After a moment of silence, Dustless snapped his fingers, and the corner of his mouth curled into a wicked smile. What is the most profound state of torturing a person? It's not to kill him directly. That's not interesting at all. The right choice is to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Then first, taking a deep breath, Dustless took out an ordinary-looking sphere from his hand. It didn't look powerful, but it shot out a high-density gravitational force that was enough to destroy the world. Dustless's expression turned cold, and he shouted, "Chibaku Tensei! Ka-ka-ka!" Just like the prelude to the Sun Destroyer. The moment the words Chibaku Tensei fell, boundless gravitational force shot down from the black sphere, changing the geological plates of the entire world. The earth was torn apart, the mountains were flattened, the sea was collapsing, and the playthings were wailing. It was as if the end of the world had really arrived. The laws of all things were all ineffective at this moment. The huge mountain floated upward, and everything was affected. "What's going on?" Wally exclaimed. His old face finally couldn't maintain his calm and confidence. The moment the gravitational force flashed, his White Dragon Emperor's domain was also affected and was easily torn apart. It was as simple as tearing a piece of paper. Not only that, his huge body also floated upward uncontrollably, and he was about to be sealed by the sphere. Chapter 1388. Gulu, staring at the beautiful monkey who was slowly approaching him. Varley's old face changed color. He looked at Dustless with gloomy eyes and growled, "As a powerhouse, you should—" Dustless interrupted Varley and asked with a smile, "Are you talking about the bearing of a powerhouse? How much is that kind of groundless bearing worth?" Boom, boom, boom. When Varley heard this sentence, his mind immediately became a mess. He felt as if he was struck by lightning. The impact of these words was even more serious than the series of violent beatings just now. Dustless's words implied that he would use all kinds of perverted means to deal with him. "I can dominate everything in this independent space, so let him be eunuch 10,000 times. Beautiful monkey, the glorious task of being castrated by your former subordinate, TSK. That must feel great," Dustless said with a cheeky smile. "You, Poochie." There was a bloodstain on the ground. Varley was so angry that he bled. He gritted his teeth and stared at Dustless in shock. He didn't expect this guy to come up with such a shameless idea. What's wrong with being eunuch 10,000 times? Glancing at the big scissors in the beautiful monkey's hand, Varley cursed in his heart. This was 10 times more serious than killing him. "Bastard, kill me if you have the guts." Varley's eyes bulged out as if they were about to pop out. "Aw, so scary. Beautiful monkey, hurry up and do it." Dustless pretended to be afraid and took a few steps back. He immediately waved his hand and ordered the beautiful monkey to execute Varley immediately. The beautiful monkey nodded and pounced on Varley with the big scissors. Even if he was eunuch 10,000 times, he could still grow it back after every time. After all, this was Dustless's space. In Tsukuyami's space, the life and death were all under Dustless's control. "Ah! Damn monkey, stop it!" The miserable scream reached the sky, making people feel cold all over. Varley's miserable scream contained endless pain. That hysterical wail seemed to be regretting living in this world. Dustless had already disappeared from Tsukuyami's space. Ka-ka-ka. The void outside was filled with wails. The fall of the moon had destroyed everyone's fighting spirit. In front of a planet, what could these small fries do? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the distant horizon, several sharp sounds of something breaking through the air could be heard. Looking up, a few weak black spots were rushing over at an incredible speed. Demon King, Leviathan, Seraphil? That guy seems to be another Demon King. Hearing this, Dustless's observation hockey swept across the world. He was surprised to find that Syzax had disappeared, and he couldn't feel his magic fluctuations. He couldn't have really been killed, right? Recalling Wally's arrogant declaration, Dustless had a bad premonition. There was no doubt about Syzax's strength. He was 10 times stronger than the old Demon King. Dustless really did not believe that he would be killed by the people the old Demon King was filming. But now, his magic fluctuations had disappeared. So be it. This kind of thing doesn't matter anyway. Dustless shrugged, revealing a helpless expression. At worst, he could just use Outer Path, reincarnation to resurrect. With Dustless's reincarnation, Sharingan's pupil power, this wasn't difficult to do. Shoo shoo shoo. At the same time, Demon King Asmodeus and Demon King Leviathan both landed on both sides of Dustless. Their expressions were slightly embarrassed, especially Seraphil's right shirt, which was faintly bursting. You two ran very fast. Are you really the current Demon King? How disappointing. An evil and arrogant voice came. At some point in time, several figures were standing in front of Dustless and the others. You are, his pupil shrank. Dustless was surprised to find that he had some impression of this person. His expression was arrogant and his eyes were overbearing. People who were swept by him would shrink their necks as if they would lose their lives in the next second. This guy's a bit similar to Wally, Dustless said in surprise. He estimated that this person was related to Wally Lucifer. His name is Lezuim Levi Lucifer. He is the grandfather of White Dragon Emperor Wally and also the old enemy of Syzax. Syzax was killed by him just now, Seraphil explained, her beautiful eyes dignified. At the same time, several powerhouses appeared beside Lezuim Levi Lucifer, and the Demon Kings of the old Demon Kings faction were also among them. Ah, is this the general mobilization of the villains? I have already advised Syzax to kill you, but he was moved by compassion. TSK, TSK. If he knew that you are now a traitor, he would not rest in peace. Dustless asked teasingly. The person standing on the left of Lezuim Levi Lucifer was the demon King Achuka that he had beaten up a while ago. But then again, are you sure that Syzax was really killed? Dustless asked suspiciously. He felt that it was ridiculous. How could a supreme demon king be killed so easily? I also heard this from Asmodeus. I don't know the specific situation at the time. Seraphil shook her head. Although she had a bad relationship with Dustless, they were already at the end of life and death. Hearing this, Dustless looked at the big guy who had been silent since just now. He felt that there was something wrong with this guy. With Syzax's strength, the probability of him being killed is 0. Even if he was surrounded by several powerhouses of the same level, he should be able to hold on for a while. Could it be? His pupils shrank. Dustless suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility. It was also at this moment that a hole the size of a human head was made in Dustless's abdomen. Chapter 1389. Zanken no Tachi emitted a terrifying energy fluctuation. Any living creature could feel the aura of death. The blood in their body quickly evaporated, as if they would dry up at any time. Everyone, including Lezuim Levi Lucifer, felt uncomfortable. You want to kill my underling? Do you have any respect for me? Lezuim Levi Lucifer sneered and took the initiative to stand up. At the same time, he waved his hand and ordered all his subordinates to retreat. It seemed that he wanted to fight Dustless one-on-one. He had a confident smile on his face. No matter what kind of artifact you are just asking for humiliation in front of me, Lezuim Levi Lucifer said arrogantly. However, Dustless ignored him and kept staring at Asmodeus. Go to hell. His pupils turned. Dustless aimed at the residue at his feet and activated the eye power of Rinnegan. Heavenly hand power. After saying that, Dustless performed a shocking scene in front of everyone. His body quietly left. Even the trajectory of his movement could not be captured. Where is he? Where did he run to? That kid can't be scared, right? Who knows? But even if he ran, it's useless. Soon, we will gradually occupy the main world. That kid is just a stray dog. There is no need to bother with him. Let's discuss how to split the profits after we occupy the world in the future. These people completely ignored Dustless's existence. He was just a small character. If he ran away, then so be it. Damn coward. He didn't really run away, did he? Seeing this, Seraph's expression turned ugly. Although she was a demon king, there were several people on the opposite side who were at the same level as her. If Dustless patted his butt and left, she would only have a dead end. Seraphil expressed that she had not lived long enough and did not want to die. Phew, he finally left. The Demon King who held the position of Asmodeus rejoiced. His tense heart also calmed down, expressing that he was under great pressure facing Dustless. However, just as he finished speaking, Dustless appeared and slapped his face. "Yo, what are you rejoicing about?" A demonic voice suddenly came from behind. Not only Asmodeus sucked in a breath of cold air, everyone else shivered. This guy was as silent as a ghost. "Die." With that, Zenka no Tachi slashed at Asmodeus, its sharp edge piercing through his body. Boom, boom, boom. A violent explosion suddenly occurred between heaven and earth. Zenka no Tachi spewed out a large amount of high-density flames, and Asmodeus disappeared without a trace in a flash. Not even a speck of dust was left behind. It had been directly crushed by the explosive flames of remnant fire Tachi. Everything ended when it was swung. This was the most realistic portrayal of remnant fire Tachi. How is this possible? He instantly killed a Demon King player. Everyone rubbed their eyes, and after confirming that they weren't dizzy from old age, they were petrified. This wasn't the lowest level of trash demon, but a Demon King in name and in reality. Moreover, he belonged to the category of transcendence. The current Demon Kings were all stronger than the previous Demon Kings, but Dustless's simple appearance really refreshed their seriousness. It was as if he was cutting cabbage. Oh no, even if he was cutting cabbage, there would still be movement. At the very least, you could hear the sound of "Kacha." But when Dustless swung his blade to cut the head of Asmodeus, there wasn't even a sound, directly killing him. Gulp! Everyone retreated one after another, taking the initiative to pull away from Dustless. This guy was really too frightening. His strength was at the limit of being able to shatter mountains with a flick of his finger. A bunch of useless trash. Seeing this, Lesavim Levian Lucifer's old face twitched. Although he was also shocked by Dustless's means and was even more afraid of him than Sarzax Jimenez, Lesavim Levian Lucifer also knew that he couldn't back down. If he, as the leader of the Calamity Squad, was afraid of Dustless, what could he expect from this group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals? Don't be afraid. We have more people. Beat him up like how we killed Sarzax just now. The helpless Lesavim Levian Lucifer could only boost the morale. His tone was extremely bewitching as he shouted loudly, "Don't forget that we have the absolute advantage." Absolute advantage? Hearing this, Dustless smiled as if he was looking at an idiot. He pointed at White Dragon Emperor Wally, who was rolling on the ground. His whole body was twitching, and his painful expression made it seem as if he was neither alive nor dead. "Useless trash. I should have killed you back then. Letting you live now is simply my biggest mistake and failure." Lesavim Levian Lucifer only felt that his lungs were about to explode from anger. While he was painstakingly trying to fool everyone, his grandson was wailing over there and tearing down his stage. And do you really think that you have the advantage in numbers? Dustless's words attracted everyone's attention. They saw that he was holding Remnant Flame Tachi, which was out of the ordinary. He was not in a hurry to attack, nor was he in a hurry to launch a sneak attack. Instead, he only stabbed Remnant Flame Tachi into the ground. Kacha! Instantly, the ground cracked open easily, and a huge hole appeared. The sharpness that could cut through iron like mud shocked everyone. What is he trying to do? Lesavim Levian Lucifer's expression was so gloomy that it could drip water. He thought that with Sarzax dead, all the problems would be solved, and the leadership of the demons would be at his fingertips. Even the entire world would be under his control. Who would have thought that after he sent Sarzax away, an even more difficult cold-faced Yama would come and kill one of his generals in the blink of an eye? One unlucky year. The corner of Lesavim Levian Lucifer's mouth twitched. Chapter 1390. The group of villains shuddered as they looked at the charred Tachi in Dustless's hand in fear. This weapon was too abnormal. No matter where it hit, as long as it touched it, it would be vaporized. Not even a trace of their existence would be left behind. let alone bones. How did this guy get out of my sealing technique? Demon King Achuka's face darkened. His barrier magic formation was inexplicably torn apart, but none of them saw Dustless make a move. He had only blinked his eyes, and the barrier had shattered. Should we retreat? We're not his match at all. He alone can crush all of us. Chow Chow from the Heroes faction is a good example. We're not as good as him. We'll die if we go up. The team of Disaster's camp immediately had doubts and discussed with each other. They didn't care about the livid Demon King Achuka or their current boss, Lezuim Levian Lucifer. Which was more important, their lives or their boss? They decisively chose the former. These people were only here to get some benefits. If they could get some benefits, everything would be fine. But if their lives were threatened, especially for a super freak like Dustless, encountering such a strong and boundless enemy, it was better to give up early. One Demon King. Who wouldn't be afraid? Sure enough, he didn't let me down. Hearing the cowering team of Disaster's underlings, Seraphil's tense nerves finally relaxed. This motley crew was also a force to be reckoned with. But now, their confidence was shattered by Dustless. In fact, it wasn't just the team of Disaster that was afraid. Even Seraphil, who was also a Demon King, felt a chill in her soul. Dustless's strength was too terrifying. To put it bluntly, killing a Demon King was as easy as killing a chicken or a dog. Want to run? Hearing this, Dustless frowned, and a cold look flashed across his face. Being slapped in the face and remaining silent was not his style. Dustless was the true portrayal of Dustless. You're all going to die. Landing on the ground, Dustless was too lazy to talk nonsense. Even if there were tens of thousands of enemies, it was meaningless to him. Anyway, he didn't need to do it himself. Another ability of Zanka no Tachi could deal with it. Are you an idiot? Let them go. We are outnumbered. Seraph trotted over and tugged at the corner of Dustless's clothes, silently cursing him for being an idiot. Dustless didn't seem to understand the sentence. They outnumber us? We have fewer people and less power? That was just now, but it's different now. Wu Qin smiled and patted Seraph's shoulder. The latter's face suddenly blushed like an apple. There were 2 cute crimson balls on her face. She cursed in her heart. This brat still dares to tease me. At the same time, Seraph also widened her eyes and curiously watched Dustless's performance. Crack! Dustless stabbed Zanka no Tachi into the ground, and the ground began to tremble as if it was water. If the number of people can determine victory or defeat, then we will definitely win this time. Dustless smiled with incomparable confidence. Dense ripples appeared on the ground, as if something was about to break out from the ground, causing everyone to feel uneasy. Those who have been killed by me, now wake up. Broken bones emerged from the ground, and Dustless finally shouted, Zanka no Tachi south, fire 10 trillion death burial formation. Oh, the moment his voice fell, the undead army of hundreds of millions of skeletons rose from the ground, and their deafening roars resounded through the sky. They all raised their weapons and charged toward the Disaster Squad. How is this possible? That guy can control the undead army? And such an exaggerated number. All right, I have something to do at home, so I'll leave in advance. My wife is his relative, so I'm retreating too. Damn that guy. Is that guy the Grim Reaper? But even Hades doesn't have this ability. Why are you still talking nonsense? Do you want to be beaten to death? Hurry up and run. Hundreds of millions of skeletons chased after the invaders of the Disaster Squad. There were some super strong undead in the army, such as the captains that were killed in the Grim Reaper world. Aizen, Yawach, Jerem, Ulkora, and the captains that were killed by Dustless, including the former Knights of the Astral Cross, all turned into an army of skeletons to chase after the Disaster Squad. Fortunately, I've killed enough people in the past, Dustless said with a myriad of emotions. Most of the skeletons in the army were strong. You can't be the legendary god of Hades who controls death, right? Seraphil smiled bitterly, suddenly feeling that Dustless was too mysterious. Invincible abilities came one after another, especially with his casual appearance. It was very likely that he did not use his full strength. Grim Reaper? Hearing this, Dustless rolled his eyes. The Hades of this world seemed to be a skeleton. Have you seen a handsome Hades like me? That old guy is just a skeleton. You really can't be praised. Seraphil was speechless. She did not expect Dustless to be so narcissistic. Of course, it was undeniable that Dustless had the capital to be narcissistic. After all, his strength was there for all to see. You two are the last enemies. His line of sight fell on Demon King Echuca and Lesavim Levi Lucifer's head. Almost everyone else had collapsed. Only these two held a deep hatred for Dustless and continued to be in a stalemate. As for White Dragon Emperor Wally, he was already unconscious. He was unicated by his subordinates 10,000 times in the Tsukuyami world. He was probably traumatized for the rest of his life. Chapter 1391. The Demon King Echuca trembled all over and grimaced in pain. In order to carry out the plan perfectly, he deliberately suppressed his strength last time and lost, causing him to lose face. This time, he unleashed all his strength to turn the tables. But who would have thought that he would be even weaker than before? Echuca said that he couldn't even capture Dustless's movements. When he realized that Dustless had appeared, his heart had been crushed. How can you be so fast? Where did you come from? I've checked your background, and there's no god called Dustless in the Eastern and Western mythological systems. At this point, the Demon King Echuca also recognized the gap between them. It was just his wishful thinking to avenge his humiliation, and it was impossible to realize. I'm just an ordinary mortal. Retracting his arm, Dustless took the initiative to distance himself from the Demon King Echuca. He was also an ordinary human who had reached where he was today. There was no one who could reach the sky in one step and stand at the top of the pyramid looking down on all living things. However, even if I can't kill you, I must leave my mark on your body, the Demon King Echuca said with a determined expression. At least he had to let Dustless know that he had fought with an enemy called Echuca Astaroth and was injured. You have a lot of unrealistic ideas. Wuchen had a headache. Sometimes it was really difficult to deal with this kind of lunatic who did things without thinking about the consequences. Even if they were forced into a desperate situation on the verge of death, they would still have the idea of perishing together with the enemy in the end. You want to self-destruct? Looking at Echuca calmly, Dustless said softly, you have a lot of magic power in your body gathered in your abdomen. I'm afraid you want to detonate your entire body and drag me down with you. What a crazy man. That's right. Hearing this, the Demon King Echuca admitted. Since he was already close to death, he might as well use the remaining time to create the most dazzling sparks. His body grew bigger and bigger, like a hydrogen balloon gradually occupying the entire sky. Not to mention attacking, he would explode if someone touched him slightly. Unfortunately, there's no chance, Dustless said softly, and at the same time his eyes began to change. No chance? Get this straight. As long as you touch my body, even if it's just touching me with your hair, there might be an explosion that can destroy the world. Demon King Echuca said proudly. This was also one of his trump cards, a move that would take his enemy down with him. Farewell. Dustless didn't say anything. His eye power increased without limit, tearing apart the space beside Demon King Echuca. Divine might. Could it be that he wants to? Demon King Echuca's pupils constricted as he stared at the space within Shenwei. His entire body glowed. The chances of him taking revenge on Dustless after being thrown into that space were zero. I need to self-destruct as soon as possible. I already said it's too late. The godly might released a distorted gravitational force, and Demon King Echuca was instantly sucked in. It was too late for him to self-destruct, as the wound that was torn by the godly might had already healed. Bastard! In the cold, dark universe, Demon King Echuca screamed at the top of his lungs. He was frantically looking for a way out, but there was nothing he could do. As far as the universe was concerned, there was no way out. The only thing that awaited Demon King Echuca was death. You're the last enemy, right? He turned into a photon and floated to Seraph's side. He saw that Lesawim Levi Lucifer was fighting with Wally. He even chose to forget about Dustless and Seraph. After killing him, I'll have to leave this world. Dustless stretched his body and counted the only gains in this world. It seemed that there was only the Great Red, the psychic beast, and an additional bodyguard, the infinite dragon god, Orpheus. Boom, boom, boom. The two figures clashed fiercely and fought fervently. They had really forgotten about Dustless and Seraph. I say, if the two of you fight like this, I don't know how many days it will take to determine the winner. Instead of wasting time like this, I have a good idea. Lezuim, Levi, Lucifer, and Wally Lucifer both had extraordinary magic power. They could fight for 5 to 6 days without any problem. However, Dustless didn't have that much time to play with them. What idea do you have? Wally and Lezuim, Levi, Lucifer asked at the same time. It's very simple. Dustless smiled casually. He secretly had a huge energy fluctuation in his body, preparing a powerful move that could kill with one blow. I mean, don't waste your energy. You two should die together. After that, Dustless appeared beside the two of them at lightning speed, and his shining fist slammed into them. Armament hockey hardening. Lezuim, Levi, Lucifer was a veteran of many battles. Although Dustless was very fast, he didn't grow up without doing anything. Only White Dragon Emperor Wally was sent flying by Dustless. Poochie, the powerful fist, was extraordinary. Wally, who was attacked, his chest instantly caved in, and his whole body was almost penetrated. Chapter 1392. Lezuim, Levi, Lucifer's eyes almost popped out. He stared at Dustless's fist with dread. It was covered with a shiny edge like steel. He secretly pondered, is this the fist of the giant clan? Go to hell, Wally. A lot of emerald light floated around his body. Dustless said coldly, Tensigan chakra mode. His whole body was suddenly wrapped in emerald mysterious chakra. Dustless's temperament was also different in an instant. His cold and emotionless eyes were like looking at insects. White Dragon Emperor's domain. Wally, who didn't give up, grabbed with his hand. The surrounding void was like the water's surface, radiating waves of ripples, and was compressed again. Anyone who touched this power fluctuation was reduced to half of their original size. Even the lifeless stones were no exception. Struggling before death, can't you just obediently go to heaven? Dustless shook his head gently and glanced at White Dragon Emperor Wally with pity. Then he clasped his hands, and a burst of chakra attack whistled out. Silver wheel, reincarnation, explosion. A long tornado swept out, and the ground was easily penetrated. The violent wind speed even affected the change of the airflow. The weather was fine, but it inexplicably rained. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. The tornado swallowed Wally in the blink of an eye. He found that his armor was as fragile as paper. It would be torn apart when it touched the wind and waves. The heavy armor on his body was eroded in the blink of an eye. Poochie. The armor was all destroyed, and the one who was ravaged was Wally himself. After a while, a lot of blood seeped into the tornado, and Wally had been ravaged until only a white skeleton stained with blood and minced meat was left. Gulp. Even with Lezuim, Levi, Lucifer's experience, his eyes flashed with deep fear. This miserable way of dying was too cruel and vicious. Strike first and gain the upper hand. Lezuim, Levi, Lucifer's magic burst out. In between his movements, the magic light beams all over the sky went forward together with monstrous momentum, asking for humiliation. Seeing this, Dustless was not afraid at all. He immediately took a more exaggerated move than Lezuim, Levi, Lucifer. This time, I must beat you until nothing is left, Dustless said coldly. He was already tired of this eyesore, so naturally he wouldn't show mercy. The majestic natural chakra in his body was released in an instant. Dustless's eyes and eyebrows. A huge outline of a huge outline appeared behind him. Immortal art, Mokutan, true thousand hands. The giant's arms as arms, was the sky. Wu Chun, who was standing on top of his head, dragged the giant Buddha statue forward. Every time he moved, there would be a loud rumbling sound coming from the ground. Gulp. In all fairness, Lesawim Levi was really scared out of his wits by this behemoth. That unparalleled figure made even God his impression of the Great Red extremely small. Taking a step back, even if the monster had no attack power and was just an empty shell, it still had an unprecedented attack power. If the Buddha statue fell, it would probably be able to easily destroy a city, not to mention the thousands of fists. How insignificant! Dustless glanced at the incoming light and did not hide his contempt. He shouted, "Buddha transformation on top." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Hundreds of punches flew out from the Buddha statue behind him. Their power and strength were unparalleled, and they easily dispersed the incoming magic beams. Bang, bang, bang. The shadow of the fist covered the sky, and wherever it went, magic beams would collapse and end. The void was like fireworks, with sparks flying in all directions. It was extremely beautiful. Let's retreat. Otherwise, I will die too. This guy is too scary. It's doubtful whether the Great Red will be able to take care of him. Lesawim Levi Lucifer said fearfully. It was not that he was afraid of death, but this kind of meaningless death, dying like cannon fodder, was hard for him to accept. Dying was not a problem, but he had to drag the enemy down with him. At least his death would be more valuable. He couldn't be killed by Dustless for no reason like now. That would be too tragic. Chapter 1393. You want to run? Do you think I don't exist? Dustless sneered again and again. He had been observing the changes in Lesawim Levian Lucifer's expression. That expression of fear and wanting to escape, he saw it clearly. Go to hell. Sweeping away the remaining magic light in the sky, the giant Buddha statue turned around and charged towards Lesawim Levi's Lucifer. Kakaka! The ground under his feet shook violently. Lesawim Levi's Lucifer couldn't even stand still. His expression was extremely gloomy. Do you really want to kill me? Lesawim Levi's Lucifer asked in a hoarse voice. His fists were clenched so tight that his veins were popping out. Every strong person had their last trump card, but it could only be used in a desperate situation. Every trump card that was used was one less trump card. That was why most of the strong people didn't want to fight to the death. After all, not everyone was like Dustless, who had all kinds of overpowered abilities and powerful moves. Is there any use in saying this now? A few hundred meters in the sky, Dustless stepped on the Buddha statue. His tone was calm, and his eyes were emotionless. Anyone could see the faint murderous intent in his eyes. Damn brat. Hearing Dustless's answer, Lesawim Levi's Lucifer roared. His body turned into a purple light and fled. He knew that resisting Dustless would lead to an early death, but he still wanted to die. That was an idiotic behavior. You still want to run at this point? Dustless shook his head. He was about to leave, so he couldn't let go of this big trouble. Suddenly, a few emerald balls floated behind him. They were similar to the truth-seeking jade. All of them gathered in Dustless's palm. In the end, as if they were melted, they were all compressed into Dustless's right hand. A faint golden light could be seen floating. Idiot, you still want to kill me from so far away. Ha ha ha, incurable idiot. Lesawim Levi's Lucifer laughed crazily. His words were filled with endless joy. His ability to escape was used to the extreme. Almost in the blink of an eye, he pulled a distance of tens of kilometers away from Dustless. Run as fast as you can. It's a good opportunity to test the effects of this spell on an enemy from such a long distance. Dustless stood still, and the light gathered in his hand was ready to be released. From his calm expression, it was not difficult to see that he was deliberately letting Lesawim Levian Lucifer escape, hoping to use him to experiment on a certain spell. If Lesawim Lucifer knew about this, he would probably vomit blood again. The distance is far enough. It's about time to begin. Dustless raised his hand and stared at Lesawim Levi Lucifer, who was gradually disappearing from his eye sockets. He was determined to attack. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. The lightsaber extended endlessly. Just like Dustless's chakra, his lightsaber also had no end. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 1 meter, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters, 100,000 meters, 1,000,000 meters. The golden lightsaber was invincible. Everything it touched was sharpened by the absolute power. Its momentum was extremely fierce. In the blink of an eye, it was close to Lezuim Levian Lucifer, who was frantically running away. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air from behind made Lezuim Levian Lucifer terrified. He subconsciously turned his head, and the incomparably thick golden lightsaber filled his entire pupil. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sharp edge seemed to want to cut him in half. How is this possible? What kind of move is this? Does he want to cut the whole world apart? Lezuim Levian Lucifer's face was ugly. He had escaped so far, but who would have thought that Dustless would catch up in the blink of an eye? He was regretting his decision. How was this a battle? It was clearly a crushing of strength. I can't die here. I can still make a comeback. Lezuim Levian Lucifer roared crazily. He gathered high-density magic under his feet and stepped on the void. He covered a distance of more than 1,000 meters. Still want to run? Slightly raising his eyebrows, Dustless scolded him for being ignorant and ridiculous. Chakra rose rapidly like a rocket. In an instant, the golden lightsaber that stretched for millions of meters became faster. In a few breaths, it was already close to Dustless Lezuim Levian Lucifer. Poochie! The golden lightsaber swept across his body. There were obvious traces of blood on his abdomen. It hurts. Lezuim Levian Lucifer gritted his teeth in pain. He subconsciously looked at his body. No, it was not his body anymore. His lower body had been cut off by Dustless. Now, only his upper body was left. TSK, TSK. You can still not die like this. The vitality of a demon is really strong. He was still alive, even after being cut in half. Even if it was just for a short while, it was enough to prove how strong and terrifying the vitality of a demon was. The only way to kill him instantly was to cut off his head. It's not that the life of a demon is strong. It's just that my strength is stronger than theirs. If it were other demons, even if they were demon kings, they would have been crushed by you in an instant. Staring at Dustless, who was rushing over in the form of a rainbow, Lezuim Levian Lucifer was calm. Perhaps it was because he was about to die. He was terrifyingly calm. You don't seem to be afraid in the slightest. Your calmness and composure are truly impressive. 7 to 8 meters away from Lezuim Levian Lucifer, photons flashed and instantly compressed into Dustless's body. A pair of bright eyes looked at him and gave him a look of admiration. Of course, because I still have to drag you down with me. So of course I'm very open-minded. Chapter 1394. It was said that Lezuim Levi Lucifer was unrepentant. Even if he was cut in half and only had half of his body left, he was still so arrogant. Especially with his confident tone, he was almost 100% sure that he could kill Dustless. Just based on your current state? Dustless had a headache. He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen someone so arrogant. He was already cut in half and only had half of his body left. Even in such a state, he still wanted to drag Dustless down with him. That's right. Staring at Dustless fearlessly, Lezuim Levi Lucifer made the final decision and said with hatred, "If you were willing to let me live, I wouldn't have fought with you. But you actually dared to cut me in half and make me lose face." Lezuim Levi Lucifer's eyes were blood red. Dustless's cruel actions made him lose all his prestige. As the leader of the Calamity Squad, how could he convince the others in the future? Cut you in half. Do you think this is the end? The best part is yet to come. Dustless sneered. He had killed countless people and tried all kinds of killing methods. Today, he might as well try them all on Lezuim Levi Lucifer's body. Although he only had half of his body left, Dustless slowly raised his right hand and pointed his thumb at Lezuim Levi Lucifer's right arm. Dense bright light gathered at the tip of his thumb. Laser shot. The straight light shot out and pierced towards Lezuim Levi Lucifer. He actually didn't run. Perhaps he had seen through life and death. Lezuim Levi Lucifer stood still. His body was only faintly emitting a purple light, and unbelievably slowly combusted. Poochie. Lesavim Levi Lucifer's face was as pale as snow. Smoke was coming out of his left shoulder. It seemed that it had been pierced through. Through the thumb-sized hole, one could see the sky on the other side. This guy, Dustless frowned tightly, saying that Lesavim Levi Lucifer had seen through life and death. Dustless would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. How could an ambitious person give up life so easily? Especially Lesavim Levi Lucifer, who was determined to perish together with Dustless. It was impossible for him to die. He seems to be combusting his body. No, he seems to be burning his soul. Dustless stared at Levi Lucifer and felt that something was wrong. Ha! Are you scared? Ha! This is what you get for angering me. Lesavim Levi Lucifer laughed wildly and said, Originally, this was used to deal with the Great Red, but you are at least on the same level as the Great Red, so the main character can only be changed to you. This is a super monster sealed in the Bible at the cost of my soul. As if he could see the miserable state of Dustless's death, Lesavim Levi Lucifer's face twisted with laughter. Used to deal with the Great Red? Hearing this, Dustless instinctively thought of Samuel the Dragon Devourer, but he shook his head decisively. After all, he wasn't a dragon. Samuel the Dragon Devourer was only effective against the dragon race. He was the natural enemy of dragons, but to suppress Dustless was no different from a fool's dream. Could it be? With a flash of shrewdness in his eyes, Dustless suddenly remembered what Lesavim Levi Lucifer said just now. There was only one monster sealed in the Bible so far. Beast King 666. In the original work, Lesavim Levi Lucifer did use his soul to awaken the Beast King 666, but he was killed by Hyodo Issei in the end. No wonder you are so confident. With such a trump card, you can't be careless at all. Dustless patted his head and showed an expression of fear. But no matter how he tried to hide it, the anticipation that was exposed made Lesavim Levi Lucifer so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. That was the legendary Beast King 666, not some random person. At least, he should show an expression of fear. What's with this cheeky smile? Not serious at all. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At the same time, a large-scale magic circle appeared in the void. The range was as large as a few hundred meters. It was the first time Dustless saw such an exaggerated magic circle that covered the sky. Woo, woo, woo. A deafening roar came from the surface of the magic circle. The majestic roar was awe-inspiring, as if it was the ruler of the sky. Their ears were numb, and they felt dizzy. The terrifying aura swept across the world. Anyone who felt the waves could not help but lower their head. They were inexplicably terrified. What the hell is that? Seraphil, who rushed over, was stunned. Her little face was pale, and her body involuntarily hid behind Dustless. Even if the super creature in the magic circle had not appeared yet, Seraphil was sure that this was an enemy beyond her knowledge. It seems to be called Beast King 666. It seems to be on the same level as the Great Red. Dustless lazily hugged his head with both hands and said without changing his expression, Beast King 666? On the same level as the Great Red? Seraphil staggered and almost fell. She looked at Dustless with a conflicted expression. If that was the case, the two of them should run away now and unite with other mythological systems and powerhouses of other forces, instead of looking at Dustless's expectant expression. What are you worried about? My bodyguard is enough to deal with him. Dustless waved his hand and patted Seraphil's shoulder. Bodyguard. Seraphil was stunned when she heard that. She subconsciously looked around. A black shadow just happened to pounce at her. It was so fast that Seraphil only felt a black wind blow past. Chapter 1395. Seraphil was depressed. Since when were there so many unknown powerhouses in the world? Demon King level players seem to have been reduced to street trash. Dustless being a freak was one thing, but she also threw out Lesavim as a freak. Beast King 666 was also speechless. After all, he was on the same level as the Great Red, the real Red Dragon God Emperor known as DXD. But who was this guy that suddenly appeared? And he was so strong that she couldn't even catch his speed. She's a girl. Seraphil paused and looked at the end of the black wind trail. The girl with black hair dancing in the wind was slim and graceful. Her expression was emotionless, and her clean and white cheeks were like gems. What was most surprising was that the girl was not afraid of Beast King 666 Aura. This is the leader of disaster, the infinite dragon god Orpheus. After being stunned for a few seconds, Seraphil revealed the girl's identity and then asked with a trembling voice, She's her bodyguard? I must have heard wrong. You don't believe me? Dustless curled his lips and said disapprovingly, To be honest, the Great Red, she's also my summoned beast. With a proud expression, Dustless looked at Seraphil in high spirits. His appearance was like a villain, and it gave people the feeling that he deserved a beating. Infinite dragon god, Orpheus? Lesavim also exclaimed. His face turned green as he questioned, as the leader of Disaster Orb, How dare you betray us so blatantly? How dare you? Damn bastard, I don't understand. What's so special about this man? Could he be the illegitimate son of the god of creation? Lesavim's face was gloomy, as if he had eaten 10 tons of flies. It was as ugly as it could be. It seemed that all the good things in the world happened to Dustless. Damn it! Lesavim roared at the sky, full of desolation. He sacrificed his soul to awaken Beast King 666 and hoped that he could kill Dustless, this annoying cockroach. Infinite dragon god Orpheus' betrayal shattered his hopes. Although Beast Emperor 666 was powerful, it was impossible for him to suppress the infinite dragon god Orpheus. If the two of them were to fight, Beast Emperor 666 would only be on par with Orpheus. Thinking about how he had sacrificed his soul for nothing, Lesavim's face twitched, and he was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Ayo, ayo, ayo. The Beast Emperor 666 completely emerged from the huge magic formation. Its huge body was even taller than the Great Red. It was several hundred meters tall, and it was only a little shorter than Dustless' complete body Susanu. An ugly monster with several heads was instantly exposed. Its invincible aura swept across the entire underworld. Woo woo woo. Beast Emperor 666 roared once again. Although he didn't intentionally target anyone, the shockwaves from his roar still turned into a world-destroying shockwave that spread in all directions. Even if the moon hasn't fallen, the underworld is probably done for after this battle. Seraphil could not help but smile bitterly and lower her head in silence. In front of this group of people, her status as the Demon King had plummeted, and she had no right to speak. Other than Lesavim, who was about to die from self-immolation, everyone else was stronger than her. This guy, Dustless carefully stared at Beast Emperor 666. After a while, he waved his hand and said with a face full of disgust, This ugly guy is Beast Emperor 666? What a bummer. One look, and I can tell that he's a big idiot. He doesn't deserve to be my summoned beast. Orpheus, hurry up and kill him. If I summon him out to fight, I will definitely be isolated and treated as an alien. You, Orpheus, who is naturally adorable, twitched her mouth. Her expressionless face had a touch of helplessness. She was also deeply troubled by Dustless's Chinibu personality. Ayo, 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 ayo. Somehow, Beast Emperor 666 seemed to understand Dustless's mockery. One of his heads roared a few times, then he bared his teeth at Dustless. Then, he opened his mouth and a huge flame fell down. Idiot, taking the initiative to provoke me. You will only die faster. Giving a hopeless look, Dustless also launched an incomparably powerful attack to give a biting cold counterattack. You just came out, and you don't even have time to take a few breaths before you die. It's really hard for you. Even a cold person like me can't help but sympathize with you. The Rinnegan Sharingan was exposed in the air, staring at the falling fireball. Wu Chun responded softly. Tomb of Samsara, border prison. The sky was quiet, but the falling fireball instantly exploded without any warning. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the heads of Beast Emperor 660 SXS main body. They were all dumbfounded. Others didn't understand what happened, but Dustless, who saw through Rinnegan's Sharingan, witnessed everything with his own eyes. The flame attack was scattered and destroyed by his shadow. In the invisible world, Dustless's shadow used complete Kinsusinu to confront Beast Emperor 666. He had an ignorant expression on his face, and he didn't know who did it. Full of flaws, a good opportunity. Orpheus's cute little face caught Beast Emperor 660 SIXS flaw. She raised her harmless fist and punched at Beast Emperor 660 SXS many heads. Boom, boom, boom. A large ripple appeared in the void, and it spread at a speed beyond the naked eye. It gave the feeling that the sky of the whole world was trembling because of Orpheus's punch. At the same time, Dustless increased the output of his eye power. His shadow controlled complete Kinsusinu, and under the double attack, Beast Emperor 666 was instantly unlucky. Especially Dustless's shadow. He couldn't deal with it at all. Chapter 1396. If he could see or feel the attack, he could still barely defend and counterattack. However, if he couldn't see or feel the attack, he definitely couldn't counterattack. Facing the shadow of Tomb of Reincarnation, Beast Emperor 666 was instantly doomed. Dustless's shadow controlled the complete body, Kinsusinu, and raised his sword. He channeled his strength to the maximum and slashed at Beast Emperor 660 SXS body. Beast Emperor 666 was instantly split into two. Bang, bang, bang. The body that was a few hundred meters tall was mercilessly cut in half. The body that was as big as a mountain fell to the ground. The earth shook and the mountains shook. It was chaos. Bang, bang, bang. Ka, ka, ka. At the same time, the attack of the infinite dragon god Orpheus suddenly arrived. This Lolita dragon looked harmless and was often good at acting cute. However, when she attacked, there was no hesitation at all. Beast Emperor 660 SIXS lower body that was cut in half was smashed into pieces by her. Gulp! Witnessing this scene, Lezavim's throat suddenly choked. Looking at the miserable Beast Emperor 666, his own soul had been burned to nothing. He suddenly realized that he had suffered a loss. Is this really Beast Emperor 666 that's comparable to the Great Red? Lezavim's eyes were filled with doubt. If it was Beast Emperor 666, it was too weak to be beaten up by Dustless and Orpheus. He didn't even know who the enemy was before his body was inexplicably cut in half. Still not dead. Sensing that Lezavim's soul was not completely burned, Dustless wanted to help him. He waved his hand, and a pink light flew out. Pathbreaker 54, Waste Flame. At this moment, Lezavim was like a fish on a chopping board. He could only watch the incoming attack. He couldn't even free his hands to counterattack. His expression was very weak and weak. Boom, boom, boom. The burning Lezavim exploded and was completely engulfed in the flames. Roar, roar, roar. The crippled Beast Emperor 666 roared to the sky. His collapsed wounds miraculously healed. He winked proudly and arrogantly. His nondescript head also recovered to its original state. This guy, his ability is somewhat similar to my super regeneration. Dustless frowned. Perhaps Beast Emperor 660 SXS' strongest point wasn't his attack power, but his instant recovery ability. Everyone would die from exhaustion. No wonder it can only be sealed. This kind of ability is a headache for the native gods of this world. Dustless had some understanding of the gods of this world. His attacks were rather monotonous, and he used the same few moves over and over again. It's a little tricky. Orpheus moved to Dustless's side. It would be difficult for him to destroy Beast Emperor 666. Its recovery ability was too overpowered. It could instantly restore itself to its original state. Troublesome. Dustless sneered and said sarcastically, "If that's all he has, I can tell you clearly that this ugly emperor is going to die today." As an invader from another dimension, Dustless had trampled on 3 worlds in a row. What kind of strange abilities had he not seen before? An unlimited recovery ability was nothing. At least Dustless would have no problem dealing with him. Listen up. Whether it's sealing you or killing you, I have 100 ways to make you wish you were dead. With both hands, Dustless was even more ruthless this time. In a world of the tomb of reincarnation, there were suddenly a few more shadows. There were a total of 12 shadows, and they were using the exact same move at the same time. Would release. Immortal Art. True Thousand Hands. Beast Emperor 660 SXS body was very big, but there was a gap between him and Senju Hashirama's strongest technique, True Thousand Hands. He was half a head shorter, especially when he was surrounded by 12 True Thousand Hands. He looked even more small and fragile. He could be annihilated under countless fists at any time. Of course, Orpheus, who didn't have Rinnegan or Rikudo Senjutsu, couldn't see this scene. Turn into foam for me, damn beast that doesn't look like a human or a ghost. As Dustless's voice fell, all his shadows began to form hand seals, responding to Dustless's call, and giant fists all flew out. Put on top. Whoosh! The invisible world of Tomb of Reincarnation was filled with this kind of dense, air-piercing sound. Looking up, row after row of huge fists were flying towards Beast Emperor 666. 12 True Thousand Hands were attacking at the same time. This scene had never happened before. However, such a shocking scene was only seen by Dustless. After all, he was the only one in the world who had Rinnegan and Rikudo Senjutsu. Bang! 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 Even so, the scene that appeared in the eyes of Orpheus and Seraph was extremely exaggerated. Ka. The Beast Emperor's body, which was hundreds of meters tall, collapsed inexplicably. He was beaten to a bloody pulp. Pieces of flesh and bones flew everywhere, but Orpheus and Seraph couldn't see who had attacked him. The only thing left in the world was Beast Emperor 660 SAXS painful howl. Just a reckless beast. I'd give you a little sunshine, and you're brilliant. Do you really think you're invincible? Ridiculous. Pursing his lips, Wu Chan did not hide the sneer on his face. Boom, boom, boom. The ruthless, destructive blows continued. The 12 shadows launched True Thousand Hands at the same time to deal a fatal blow to Beast Emperor 666. Ow, ow. The Beast Emperor howled in agony. His bones and flesh had been smashed into fist-sized pieces. He was in a state worse than death. His hysterical howls of agony resounded through the sky. Even Orpheus, who was simple and ignorant of the world, frowned slightly. She and Seraph looked at Dustless at the same time. Both of them felt that the man in front of them was too terrible. His strength was unfathomable. Offending him was tantamount to putting an end to this world. Just like the scene in front of them, they were beaten black and blue, but they didn't even know how to do it. Chapter 1397. Beast Emperor 666 was the only one who received such treatment after being attacked by 12 shadows consecutively. He was so happy that he didn't want it anymore. That horrifying scream made one's scalp numb and filled with despair. Ow, ow. Woo, woo, woo. Although Beast Emperor 666 was beaten to a pulp, his body could still be repaired. However, he was still unavoidably beaten up. This cycle repeated over and over again. Beast Emperor 666 was extremely miserable. Blood flowed like a river on the ground. His identity was also changed. He became the arrogant one and became the bullied one. Boom, boom, boom. The 12 shadows' thousand hands was also used up. Only then did the invincible attack stop. Beast Emperor 666 was panting heavily. In the past few minutes, he was almost beaten up dozens of times. Although he could revive each time, the physical damage caused by the physical attacks was real and couldn't be removed. Ow, ow. Woo, woo, woo. Several heads stared at Dustless. Their huge eyes were cold. If looks could kill, perhaps Dustless would have been cut into pieces by Beast Emperor 666. Ow, ow, ow. Beast Emperor 666 opened his mouth and wanted to take revenge on Dustless. Infinite dragon god Orpheus, the loyal bodyguard, immediately retaliated. It was one of the strongest moves. Boom, boom, boom. Rolling golden flames were spat out from Orpheus' mouth. It was just a small ball of fire, but the waves it emitted affected the entire world. Although it wasn't as scary as Zanka no Tachi, the water around it was evaporated. Boom, boom, boom. The flames hit Beast Emperor 666 head-on. His mighty body was black, as if he just climbed out of the mud. There was a burnt smell all over his body. Don't ignore my existence. Orpheus raised his fist and waved it. He was obviously saying that if you ignore my existence, I will beat you to death. It still doesn't work? Dustless frowned. Beast Emperor 660 SXS burnt wounds healed in the blink of an eye. However, the pain of being beaten up by Orpheus was real. Woo woo woo. Beast Emperor 666 stretched out his head and shouted. It seemed to be saying that none of their moves were effective. There's no limit to his arrogance. Dustless's lips curled up slightly. He ignored the Beast Emperor's furious roar. This guy could only take advantage of him verbally. From the moment he came out until now, he had been the one getting beaten up. Swish! Swish! Enraged, the Beast Emperor lowered its body and opened its mouth to bite Dustless and the others. Its mouth was several meters long. It seemed like he wanted to kill Dustless and Orpheus in one go. Super Shinra Tensei, the 9-Tomo reincarnation, I emitted a dangerous fluctuation, an earth-shattering repulsive force erupting. Boom, boom, boom. A huge crater several dozen kilometers wide appeared on the ground, as if it had been struck by an extraterrestrial meteor. It covered the entire territory of the Gimli family. Even the infinite dragon god Orpheus' cute little face changed slightly, and it could not help but shiver. It could not help but imagine what would happen if it was attacked head-on. Bang, bang, bang. The Beast Emperor exploded into a bloody mist again, but only a few seconds later, he appeared in front of Dustless again. This guy is indeed a little difficult to deal with. At this point, Dustless had no choice but to admit defeat. This guy was like his tin-tail body. Even if he was cut into pieces and beaten until only his cells were left, he could still break out of his cocoon and be reborn. This is the fundamental reason why I can only seal him. Orpheus' face always maintained a calm expression. If that's the case, then seal him. Banish him to the universe, and let him live a life worse than death. After all, he had already beaten this guy dozens of times, and Dustless' anger had subsided. He could just continue to seal him. Out of sight, out of mind. It's easier said than done. Orpheus raised her voice and was speechless. This was the Beast Emperor 666, an existence that was almost at the same level as her. Sealing him was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Don't worry, I'm very good at sealing. Dustless smiled calmly, and then threw a black body into the void. The ground suddenly trembled, and a majestic gravitational force shot down from above. Chibaku Tensei. He used all his strength to cast the Chibaku Tensei, and there was a qualitative change. A large piece of the ground was torn apart, including the Beast Emperor 666, who was a few hundred meters tall. His huge body ignored the existence of gravity and unbelievably floated up. The moment the gravitational sphere appeared, the whole world began to slowly float up. What kind of move is this? Orpheus could no longer maintain her calm expression. For the first time in her life, she was stunned. Not to mention the Beast Emperor 666. Even she felt that she was about to be torn apart. The high-density gravitational force enveloped her, and she lost control of her body. This was the situation where Dustless did not deliberately target Orpheus. Otherwise, she might be like the Beast Emperor 666. Ow, ow. Woo, woo, woo. The Beast Emperor 666 screamed in panic. He shook and struggled with his huge body, but in the end, it was useless. His body, that was a few hundred meters tall, gradually merged into the Chibaku Tensei. Seeing that he was about to be sealed, the Beast Emperor 666 had no strength to fight back. Under this destructive gravitational force, it was thousands of times more difficult for him to move his arms and legs. It was even difficult for him to open his mouth to speak, let alone fight back against Dustless. He could only look at the large-scale meteorite that was getting closer and closer in despair. "It's over." Dustless's gaze froze slightly. The Beast Emperor's 660 SXS body completely disappeared and was sealed inside the Chibaku Tensei. Chapter 1398. The entire world was silent as everyone stared blankly at the meteorite that was expanding in the void. The moon was falling slowly, and Dustless created an even more exaggerated planet with his own strength. This heaven-defying method stunned everyone. Even the infinite dragon god, Orpheus, had his mouth wide open, and his eyes were filled with shock. This was equivalent to indirectly creating a world. "It's over, then there's no need for you to fall." Glancing at the meteorite and the Chibaku Tensei that sealed the Beast King 666, he activated his Tensigen again, and the moon returned to its original orbit. And the poor Beast King 666 was directly exiled into space by Dustless. Time flew, and half a month passed in the blink of an eye. The underworld that had been scorched by the last war had begun to be rebuilt, and many areas had been restored to their original appearance. But the painful lessons left behind by the war could not be forgotten. For example, the unexpected death of Syzax. Gilifia, Riaz, and the others, including his mother, were extremely sad. When they found Syzax's body, he was devastated beyond recognition. Inside the luxurious villa of the Gimli family. Can such an unbelievable thing really be done? Riaz's tone was tearful and a little touched, thinking that Dustless was comforting her. Bringing someone back from the dead was too unreal for Tai. "Of course, I can use my outer path, reincarnation of heaven, to bring Syzax back to life." Dustless nodded affirmatively. Reviving someone was a piece of cake for him. Watch carefully. With everyone's anticipation, Dustless walked to Syzax's charred body and shouted, "Outer path, reincarnation of heaven." Syzax's body was covered in an emerald light that contained a vast amount of vitality, and his shattered and charred body began to recover. His charred skin also began to heal. "Can it really be done?" the girls exclaimed, and Riaz were the most excited. Where is this?" After a while, Syzax's eyebrows twitched slightly, and then he opened his eyes and looked at the world in front of him in confusion. "Am I not dead? And who are you?" His words caused Gilifia and Riaz, who were crying tears of joy, to freeze. "Is there something wrong with my memory? This has never happened before," Dustless said with a frown. Then he guessed, maybe there's something wrong with his soul. Lezavim and the others were ruthless enough. Just in case, they probably even did something to Syzax's soul. That's enough. Despite her disappointment, Gilifia still walked up to Dustless and thanked him sincerely. "Don't worry about it." Dustless smiled. It was just reviving a person. With his eye power, it was a simple and easy task. "It's time to take them away." Dustless glanced at the girls and knew that their trip to this world was over. He was about to bring them back to the system and invade the next world. "We..." Demon King Seraphil raised her eyebrows and said unhappily, "It's you, not us. Pay attention to the way you speak. If you don't handle it well, others might misunderstand. It's your own business if you refuse." Dustless glanced at Seraphil and said playfully, "But I'll still kidnap you by force." "You? Shameless." Seraphil stomped her feet in frustration. Puffed. The girls couldn't help but laugh. Seraphil was quite the tragedy. As a demon king, she had no choice but to admit defeat when faced with the unreasonable Dustless. Who told him to have the biggest fist? Syzax. Gilifia had a complicated expression. She didn't expect this to happen. She felt a stabbing pain in her heart when Syzax looked at her with those strange eyes. "Seraphil and I will both leave. After that, the Demon King will be alone. Why don't we promote him and let him be a carefree demon god?" Dustless suggested. "And me." Gilifia had yet to finish talking when she was glared at by Dustless. Now, that Gilifia was also Dustless's reverse scale. How could he let Gilifia continue to stay in the demon realm? There was no way she could stay. As for Syzax, Dustless didn't feel that he had done anything wrong by reviving him and giving him a unique position as a demon god. Including Seraph's younger sister, Tsongnath's Ytry, as well as her large group of dependents, Dustless took them all away. Although he was ready to leave, Dustless wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he went to various mythological systems and wiped out all the messy ones. Dustless didn't even do anything. The infinite dragon god Orpheus and the Great Red were a super combination. Did Dustless need to do anything himself? Obviously, there was no need for that. For example, Hades of the underworld and the Indian mythological systems were even more important targets. In the end, they were all destroyed by Dustless. When it was time to leave, Dustless held a big wedding. After dealing with all the trivial matters, Dustless planned to leave this world with the girls. Almost all the mythological systems had been wiped out. They had all been cruelly killed. Dustless had mercilessly annihilated them all. There was no one who could threaten Syzax at all. Therefore, his position as the demon god could be held comfortably. Chapter 1399. The sun shone brightly in the system world. The sky was cloudless for thousands of miles, and the breeze from afar was unusually refreshing. With a slight sniff, one could not help but indulge in it. Dustless leaned against a tree with a blade of grass in his mouth. Today, the people are so happy. Humming a tune out of tune, Dustless's face was full of smiles. Following his line of sight, in the clear pond in front of him, countless beautiful figures rolled together and laughed. Meitarumi, Hinata Hyuga, Boa Hancock, Robin, Ranjika Matsumoto, and Ryaz and the others who had just joined. Countless beautiful women with hot bodies were laughing and playing around. Really, when I look back, things are still the same, but people have changed. When did my wives become so many? Dustless sighed and suddenly felt that time had passed so quickly. There are indeed a lot. The system consciousness Ling appeared in front of Dustless and nodded. Her phoenix eyes were filled with helplessness. She even suspected that her system world would explode because of Dustless's women if this continued. I've rested enough for a while. Let's change to the next world. Although the corrupt life of drunken stupor was better than living immortals, after a long time, the warlike Dustless was tired and even a little annoyed. It's all ready. Ling gently waved her hand, and a dark space tunnel appeared next to her, twisting time and space as if the other side was another universe, and there was a strange atmosphere. I'm really looking forward to it. Standing up and moving around, Dustless strolled to the front of the space tunnel, threw away the blade of grass in his mouth, stared deeply at the women playing in the pond, and jumped in decisively. They got along very well, and there should be no possibility of a harem fire. What kind of world is that? Dustless glanced at Ling with interest and asked expectantly. It's somewhat similar to the world we're in now. Linger explained simply. Hearing this, Dustless frowned and fell silent. It seems that it's also a place where all kinds of gods walk around. After saying that, Dustless chatted with System Ling for a while, and after casually asking around, he jumped into the dark space tunnel. At the same time, in another world, dense forests cover the mountains and fields. As far as the eye could see, the entire world was made up of magnificent mountains and rivers. Immortal mist was faintly discernible, and the towering peaks were faintly discernible. The scenery was too beautiful to behold. Boom! An inexplicable loud noise came from the sky, and all the birds and beasts in the forest fled at the sound of the noise. The huge tremor tore apart the clouds and mist in the sky. In an instant, the sky was clear for thousands of miles. Ripples appeared in the void without any warning. The ripples expanded rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, they occupied a large part of the world. This kind of supernatural imagination is obviously not man-made. In other words, is this the god of disobedience? Suddenly, a gust of wind blew across the vast sky. Due to the speed of the wind, it was impossible to tell who the black shadow that was riding the wind was. Can you tear space apart? Who exactly was he? Which mythological system are you from? Don't disappoint me. The breeze stopped moving, and the vague voice became much clearer. It was pleasant to the ears, and it was most likely a young girl. Gotcha! A black hole was torn out of the void, and an afterimage fell out of it. You came out? It seems to be a god that I have never seen before. Oomph. No matter which god you are, you dare to invade my territory. If I don't teach you a lesson, how can I establish myself in this world in the future? The pleasant voice sounded again. The goddess was slim and elegant, and her expression was indifferent as she stood in the void. Her beautiful eyes swept across the sky, and her dark eyes were majestic. Her whole body was shrouded in a sharp aura. Taking a closer look, the young girl was wearing a white traditional Chinese dress. Her delicate face was as delicate as a jade carving, flawless. Her tall nose was just right, and her delicate thin lips were like a blooming flower. Her silky black hair was braided into 3 braids and stood up. The girl was Luo Hao, who was at the top of the Junlin martial arts. At the same time, she was also the leader of the Saints sect. Just when she was sleeping comfortably, a loud bang came from the sky. The void was violently torn apart, and high-density energy swept across the sky. It was difficult for Luo Hao to sleep peacefully. This was the most blatant provocation. How could she turn a blind eye to it? Plop! The black shadow that fell out of the spatial tunnel just happened to fall into the pool. His body was dirty, as if he had been struck by lightning. His hair was messy like a chicken's nest, and his fair cheeks were also dark and swarthy. Damn, why am I so unlucky every time I transmigrate? If I don't encounter a spatial storm, I will be affected by all sorts of apocalyptic disasters in the universe. This is an unlucky year. The figure that fell out of the spatial tunnel was dustless. Even though he knew that he would encounter all sorts of disasters when transmigrating, and he was fully prepared, he still ended up in such a sorry state. Yo, you are that beggar who doesn't follow. Where did you come from? An afterimage flashed across the sky, and Luo Hao's figure appeared above Dustless's head. Her stern eyes looked at Dustless, and her delicate face was replaced with a strange expression. Beggar. With his old face twitching, Dustless stared at the floating girl with a gloomy expression. After staring at her for a while, he suddenly felt that she looked familiar. He thought of an extremely narcissistic girl and asked tentatively, Luo Hao, great sect master Luo? Hearing this, Luo Hao's fair face flashed with astonishment and surprise. There were only a few people who could recognize her. You know this sect master? Could it be that you're my loyal fan? Chapter 1400. Dustless was speechless. Even though he knew that sect leader Luo was a little narcissistic, he did not expect it to be this exaggerated. How could a young lady like you, who was ignorant of worldly affairs and lived in the mountains all year round, have any fans? Give me a reasonable explanation, or else. Luo Hao aimed at a towering mountain in the distance and slapped it without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. A huge explosion resounded through the clouds. The majestic mountain instantly disintegrated, turning into thousands of particles that scattered in all directions. This was not a 100-meter-tall mountain, but a piece of soft tofu. Amazing. Dustless nodded secretly and could not help but give a thumbs up. He had a vague understanding of Luo Hao's strength. As one of the god slayers, she was not to be underestimated. Of course. Don't you know who I am? Hearing this, Luo Hao's eyes flashed with a smug look. Then, she remembered her business and said in an unfriendly tone, However, you have not answered my question. I will give you 3 seconds. If you don't give me an explanation, I guarantee that you will suffer a fate worse than death. 3, 2, 1. She gathered a powerful force in her palm and was about to slap Dustless to death when an indignant voice suddenly sounded. To tell you the truth, I am here to become your disciple because of your reputation. Dustless randomly found a lame excuse and put on a look of deep hatred. With a twisted face, he said hatefully, My name is Dustless, and my mother was a witch. However, 4 years ago, she was unfortunately captured by the god slayer of Eastern Europe, Marquis Oban. He forced my mother and other witches to hold a ritual to summon the god of disobedience. After the ritual was successful, my mother was buried with him. Even though I hate him to death, I am powerless to take revenge. After all, he is a legendary god slayer, and I am just a mortal. I heard that Marquis Oban and sect leader Luo are old enemies, so I came all the way here to become your disciple. I see. You want to use me as a tool to deal with that guy? Luo glared and asked in an unfriendly tone. She reluctantly accepted Dustless's explanation. Marquis Oban did hold a ritual to summon the god of disobedience 4 years ago and indirectly caused the deaths of many witches. Dustless's mother might be one of them. You should at least wait for me to finish. Dustless complained gloomily in his heart, but on the surface, his face was full of hatred. He said, Cult Master Luo, you misunderstood me. I'm here to take you as my master. I only hope to learn a trade and take revenge in the future. Dustless was actually quite tempted by the Godslayer profession. Who wouldn't be tempted to kill a god and obtain their exclusive authority? Dustless had killed countless gods, but not a single one of them had obtained any authority. This world isn't bad. Who knows, I might be able to increase my strength. Dustless's eyes gleamed as he shamelessly acknowledged Luo as his master. After all, Luo had been a godslayer for more than 200 years. Her knowledge in this area far exceeded that of a rookie like him. You want to be my disciple? Luo suddenly understood. She held her ancient fan and lowered her white chin. She tilted her head and said, This cult master is awe-inspiring. It's normal for you to recognize my strength. It's reasonable for you to take me as your master. Pooh. Dustless couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water. The corner of his eyes twitched. Could you not be so narcissistic? You think I'm wrong? Luo's face darkened. She changed her attitude faster than flipping a book. Dustless instantly felt an invincible aura of Mount Tide pressing down on him. Although he wasn't afraid of Luo at all, he still pretended to be fearful on the surface. Sect leader Luo is right. You're absolutely right. With that, the girl's expression eased a little. It's not a bad idea to take you as my disciple. Besides, I don't like that guy Warban. It's not a bad idea to find a disciple to beat him up. Anyway, I've been very bored recently and have a lot of time. It was obvious that Luo, and Warban were not on good terms, and their relationship was very bad. A gloating smile appeared on her beautiful face, as if she could already see Marquis Warban's future misfortune. She could not stop smiling. In the end, you're just an innocent girl who doesn't understand the world. Quietly staring at Luo's smile, Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. Just as he was about to ask some questions about the Godslayer, Luo spoke first. She said with a look of disdain, Let's go back to my place first. I can slowly teach you the techniques of battle. Also, take a good bath, or you'll stink my place. Dustless's entire body was black, and it even had a burnt stench. That's true. Hearing this, Dustless nodded in agreement and dove into the water. The water rolled over his body, and in a short while, his black body recovered. This guy. Even though Dustless was underwater, Luo's clear eyes could easily see through the water. Dustless's appearance was clearly reflected in her eyes. The young man's face was like a crown jade, with clear edges and corners. His deep and bright eyes were like the stars, shining brightly. The well-proportioned muscles on his chest were evenly distributed. The Dustless underwater contained explosive power, completely ignoring the existence of resistance, just like a fish. Not bad. He's a promising talent. Luo's eyes lit up, and she gave a rare look of praise. This disciple of hers seemed to have a much better future than Lu Yinghua. He exuded an indescribable free and confident temperament. Splash! Dustless jumped out of the water like a carp. He wiped the water off his face and stared at Luo's slightly dazed face. He couldn't help but laugh inwardly. As expected, ugly faces have no rights. Handsome faces have a bright future. Could it be that my eyes were playing tricks on me? Luo wiped the corner of his eyes and said in confusion. Just now, Wu Chun was still a mess. His face was black, and his hair was messy. Now, after washing the water, he looked brand new. He looked like two different people. Chapter 14:01. Time flew by, and a day had passed in the blink of an eye. In Luo Hao's small nunnery, there were no luxurious furnishings that belonged to the modern world. Instead, they were all retro decorations. This can barely be considered her boudoir. Dustless smiled faintly. His eyes focused on Luo Hao, who was sitting in front of him. He asked the most important question, "Do I have a chance to become a god slayer?" Everything else was trivial. This question was the most important. It did not mean that you could become a god slayer just by killing a god. That would at most be considered as having the title of a god slayer, but you would not be able to obtain their authority. There would be no point in killing a god. You can't. Luo Hao gave a short and straightforward answer. I understand your desire for revenge, but cultivation is a daily thing. Becoming a god slayer is even more illusory for you. You need a special medium. Hearing this, Dustless was refreshed. He asked expectantly, "That is to say, as long as I find the medium, I can become a god slayer?" "That's right." Luo Hao nodded seriously and explained, "I can teach you martial arts. If you practice for a long time, your strength will also be enhanced. My disciple Lu Yinghua is the same." Dustless nodded gently. It was a fact that martial arts could strengthen the body. Take Luo Hao's disciple Lu Yinghua, for example. Even some godslayers were not as strong as him. Then learn martial arts. Dustless had no choice but to compromise and agree. Although martial arts were superfluous to him, it was not impossible to deal with Luo Hao. He still needed to get other information from her. Dustless already had a plan in mind to become a godslayer. The Prometheus Secret Manual of Kusanagi Protector was the best medium. He just needed to rob it. "Come with me," Luo Hao said, and turned to leave the nunnery. Teaching Dustless martial arts here was definitely not possible. The space was too narrow. She might tear down her house if she was not careful. On the spacious grassland, Luo Hao and Dustless stood side by side. In front of them were countless mountains. Watch carefully. Luo Hao raised her palm once again. She raised her palm casually, and immediately she slapped out with a seemingly weak and powerless palm. Boom, boom, boom. In the distance, the mountain that was used as a target was instantly blasted into nothingness and razed to the ground. "Try it now," Luo Hao ordered. With twitching lips, Dustless asked with a darkened face, "You haven't taught me how to test it yet." Even though breaking a mountain was a piece of cake for him, "Why don't you teach me how to do it?" "You're right." Luo Hao suddenly understood. He did not expect to forget such an important matter. Soon after, his eyes narrowed into slits. He smiled cunningly and said, "Then I will seriously impart knowledge to you. First, you need a strong body. Otherwise, you won't be able to practice anything." That makes sense. Dustless nodded undeniably. The body was the capital of everything. It was the same no matter which world it was in. Without a body made of iron, it was possible to be KO'd by the enemy. "Then I'll train you now." Luo Hao vanished in the blink of an eye. All that could be seen was a black shadow. When she reappeared, she was already right in front of Dustless, and her fist was smashing towards him. Whoosh! Luo Hao thought that it would be easy to hit Dustless. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, Dustless actually dodged it? His reaction was so fast that even Luo Hao was stunned. Just like that? And what does this have to do with training the body? Dustless asked speechlessly. "My direct disciples are trained like this. You are no exception." Raising her fist in a show of force, Luo Hao had a serious expression on her face. At the same time, she said in surprise, "But then again, it's really surprising that you were able to dodge it just now." Dustless's expression inevitably stiffened. He quickly explained, "My mother is a witch. She taught me basic fighting skills. My reaction speed is pretty good." "I can see that." Hearing this, Luo Hao slowly nodded. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been blown away by her punch. However, Dustless was actually able to snatch it. It was really not bad. "It's not over yet," Luo Hao shouted. She gently lifted her toes, and her body completely ignored the existence of gravity. Like the wind, she floated in front of Dustless. Qingong? That's not bad, Dustless praised. He calmly stared at Luo Hao's fist that was smashing towards him. He couldn't help but sympathize with Lu Yinghua. It was really a tragedy to have such a violent master. Whoosh! Turning his head indifferently, Dustless once again dodged Luo Hao's fist. Not only that, his right leg swept out. Bang! Luo Hao was immediately repelled by Dustless's kick. Although both of them had suppressed their strength to the limit, Luo Hao still felt that her arms were a little sore. Your strength is unexpectedly great. Your reaction is also like a monster. You not bad. Luo Hao stood with her hands behind her back and commented. She had a celestial aura and had the demeanor of a peerless master. Of course, I will take revenge in the future. Maybe the little universe will be... No, it will be my Dantian that will explode. Dustless quickly corrected himself. Unexpectedly, Luo Hao pursed her lips and smiled, which made him a little absent-minded. This master seems to be not bad. He looked at Luo Hao without batting an eyelid. Although she was a little violent, it was indeed for his sake. Although it was a little boring now, it wasn't bad. At least he wouldn't feel bored and impatient. Anyway, Dustless also needed time to understand this world. In the past, he had only seen it in novels and television. Now, he had to experience it for himself. Don't be in a daze during a battle. Luo Hao rushed out. Weak ripples gathered in her palm and aimed at Dustless's direction. Good timing. Luo Hao originally thought that Dustless would choose to slip away. This time, she was a little more serious and increased her strength. However, the reality was the complete opposite. Dustless took a few steps forward and threw out a punch without any fear. Boom, boom, boom. Luo Hao's palm shadow was immediately shattered. Chapter 1402. This time, it was sect leader Luo Hao's turn to be dumbfounded. Although she didn't use her full strength, Dustless still defeated her easily. Just how strong is this kid? Luo Hao said in disbelief. The afterimages of the exploding fists were especially eye-catching in her eyes. She locked onto Dustless suspiciously. Judging from Dustless's movements and speed, as well as his calm and confident aura, he didn't seem like someone who had practiced simple combat techniques. If you don't come, then I won't hold back. 100 meters, 50 meters, 10 meters, 1 meter. The distance of several hundred meters was covered in just 4 to 5 seconds. It was unbelievably fast. Bang, bang, bang. A series of crazy explosions landed on Luo Hao's body, and she couldn't help but take a few steps back. So soft. Dustless's punches suddenly landed on some awkward parts, and his attacks inevitably paused. That sinful touch made him want to stop, and his mind was shaken. He subconsciously retracted his arm, and his face turned green, indicating that he really didn't mean it. Not bad. Why did you stop? Luo Hao asked. She looked at Dustless, who had a conflicted expression and was puzzled. You didn't notice? Dustless asked in surprise. He then heaved a sigh of relief. Perhaps it was because Luo Hao was so focused that she didn't realize that she was being taken advantage of by Dustless, even though she said it wasn't intentional. In reality, what Dustless didn't know was that Luo Hao had also noticed that her chest had been attacked. However, she didn't pay much attention to it. After all, it was inevitable. If they were really on the battlefield, it would definitely be a life-and-death battle. The winner would be the king, and the loser would be the bandit. It didn't matter what methods were used, as long as they could win. Therefore, Luo Hao didn't pay much attention to it. Instead, she was puzzled as to why Dustless had stopped attacking. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Seeing that Dustless had stopped attacking, Luo Hao darted dozens of meters away and pounced over like a gust of wind. Swish, swish, swish. Her jade-like leg swept out and kicked toward Dustless's shoulder. Due to her posture, the view under her skirt was undoubtedly revealed. Damn, it's actually black. Dustless's eyes lit up. He wanted to take a few more glances, but who would have thought that Luo Hao's small foot would kick over? Bang, bang, bang. Dustless, who was completely attracted by the scene that was not suitable for children, did not have time to defend himself and was sent flying back dozens of steps. That shouldn't be the case. Based on your strength, you should be able to withstand my attacks. Why were you pushed back by me? Luo Hao frowned in confusion. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless coughed awkwardly and said seriously, horses make mistakes, and people make mistakes. This is very normal. Is that the reason? Luo Hao asked suspiciously. She stared straight into Dustless's eyes, only to see his gaze darting around, not daring to meet her gaze. Clearly, he had done something wrong. Could it be? Suddenly, Luo Hao realized why Dustless had shown such an expression when she kicked him. Her little face flushed red as she finally understood why Dustless had shown such an expression. He had obviously seen something he shouldn't have. Oomph. With a heavy snort, Luo Hao's expression changed. She said helplessly in a loud voice, as expected, being a heavenly beauty is also a sin. Even my disciple is infatuated with me. Plop. Dustless stumbled and fell. He thought that he was narcissistic enough, but he didn't expect that when compared to Luo Hao, he would instantly become a weak chicken that was not worth mentioning. However, this is a very good breakthrough point. With a wicked smile, Luo Hao clearly thought of some weird idea. She looked at Dustless with evil intentions and thought of a good way to forcefully increase his strength. She said, "Why don't we make a deal?" A deal? Dustless frowned and stared at Luo Hao, who was smiling evilly. He asked, "Tell me about it." "If you can," staring at Dustless for a few seconds, Luo Hao said cheerfully, "If you can defeat me, I won't stop you from doing whatever you want of me. Moreover, I will choose to unconditionally comply with your conditions." F***CK? You actually came up with such a sinister move to encourage this father to improve. Dustless cursed in his heart. Looking at that exquisite body, he suddenly felt that he should use all his strength to crush Luo Hao. Ahem, we are currently in a master-disciple relationship. Dustless waved his hand to remind her. Luo Hao was quite good to him. If he used all his strength to defeat her because of this dirty thing, his status in Luo Hao's heart would plummet. There's nothing wrong with it. After all, the strong are respected in this world. As long as you are stronger than me, it doesn't matter what you do to me. After all, everyone is like this. The real strong will not be bored enough to understand the feelings of others. Luo Hao saw through it quite clearly. The law of the jungle is the essence of every world. However, Dustless just smiled and was not tempted. Perhaps he could defeat Luo Hao by using Rinnegan Sharingan and using powerful Genjutsu, but it is completely unnecessary. If he wins, will Luo Hao really obey him? Maybe she will really obey him. But one thing is certain, Luo Hao must be full of resentment toward Dustless. Deceiving a person who treats you sincerely, no matter who the person is, you can't let it go. Human beings are such emotional creatures. No matter who it is, they hate liars very much, including Dustless himself. Although the time they spent together is very short, Dustless has a good feeling about Luo Hao, so he chose to continue to hide his strength. When he understands the basic knowledge of this world, he will leave Luo Hao's Mount Lu to seize Kusanagi Protector as a medium to become the God Slayer. As for what will happen to Kusanagi Protector in the end, it is not something that Dustless can manage. People are selfish. Who cares about his life and death? Chapter 1403. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this time, Dustless had not left Luo Hao's Mount Lu, speeding up his learning of this world. His insatiable thirst for knowledge made Luo Hao shudder. But this was not the most perverted part. Bang! 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 A dull explosion was heard, and Luo Hao was forced to retreat. If she maintained the same strength as Dustless, Luo Hao would have no choice. She was no match for Dustless, and she would need to use more power to suppress Dustless. Dustless's recovery ability was an extreme existence that shocked the world. Sometimes, the injuries he suffered on the first day would be completely healed the next day. Of course, this was the result of Dustless deliberately delaying it. Based on his recovery ability with a body of 10 tails, he could recover in the next second. You have finished your apprenticeship, but it's a pity. Luo Hao sighed. Although Dustless's performance was very good, a godslayer was a godslayer, and a king was a king. Could a human surpass him just because he wanted to? It was obviously impossible, and Marquis Wabin was an extraordinary godslayer. So he had the most power among the godslayers, which indirectly meant that he had killed the most gods. Dustless could fight a human alone, but he was still far from being able to kill a god. Are you sure you want to leave? Luo Hao asked, her eyes inevitably dim. I've disturbed you for more than a month. It's time to leave. Dustless stretched and nodded slowly. When he was bored, he secretly created the White Zetsu Army to scout for information all over the world. Kusanagi Protector was about to set off for Sardinia. If Dustless was late, Kusanagi Protector would become a god slayer ahead of time, and all his efforts would be in vain. Therefore, it was imperative to leave. As for Luo Hao, thinking of this, Dustless stared at the narcissistic girl. It was undeniable that she was extremely narcissistic and violent, but she was not as ferocious and terrifying as the world imagined. She was described as terrifying as a demon. In fact, Hierarch Luo would also show her cute side. Do you need me to send a disciple with you? No matter what, you are still their junior. Luo Hao suggested with a smile. In her eyes, Dustless would not be able to kill Marquis Warband even if he had 100 lives. I'm not a child who would get lost. Dustless curled his lips. He felt that Luo Hao was treating him like a child who had yet to grow up. Then you're on your own. Blinking his eyes, Luo Hao waved his hand and didn't stop him anymore. People had to spread their wings and soar. In Sardinia, Italy, a plane flew over from the distant horizon and landed safely at the airport. Passengers continuously disembarked from the plane. Dustless was also on this flight. It really does feel strange. The blue sky was cloudless, and a lazy and bright sunshine fell from the ninth heaven. Wu Chun subconsciously raised his right arm to block the sunlight, and he always felt a little uncomfortable. That's... Dustless shifted his gaze slightly and suddenly noticed a familiar figure. She didn't know anyone in this world. Since she knew this person, it meant that she was already very famous. At least, she had left a deep impression on Dustless in the original work. The girl was wearing a long red dress. Her blonde hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Her delicate little face was outlined with a charming smile. Her deep eyes were like gemstones embedded in her eye sockets. Is this Erica Browntree? Dustless was slightly stunned. After a while, he said the girl's name. He was secretly delighted. I came at the right time. If I was a little late, Kusanagi Protector might have beaten me to it. Let's go and summon her. After thinking for a while, Dustless walked over. Chapter 1404. Erica Brantley, a 16-year-old girl from Milan, Italy. She had the title of Crimson Demon. She was the daughter of the Brantley family, a renowned family in the magic circle. She was one of the few people who knew how Hutterly became Campione. Erica belonged to the Red Cross, an Italian magic association. She had the rank of a Grand Knight and the alias of Crimson Demon. Her favorite sword was Lion King's Heart. She had learned Iron Forging, a spell that could freely manipulate iron objects. She was good at creating, transforming, destroying, and strengthening spells. Her ancestor was Campione, the Demon King. Dustless lowered his head and thought carefully about the girl's knowledge as he walked. He was carrying a simple suitcase that Luo Hao had prepared for him in advance. Bam! Perhaps because he was too focused, Dustless accidentally bumped into something. Sorry, when he raised his head and was about to apologize, Dustless realized that the person he bumped into was Erica. At this moment, she was observing Dustless carefully with her watery eyes. Young man, be careful next time. It can be troublesome to find your luggage if you lose it in an airport. Erica smiled politely and picked up Dustless's suitcase that he dropped. Perhaps because the zipper of the bag was undone, Erica happened to see what was inside the bag. You do have a special hobby. There was nothing else in the bag except thick books about the myths of various countries and the stories of natural disasters. Sorry, my name is Dustless. Nice to meet you. Taking the bag, Dustless smiled politely. The latter nodded and introduced in a low voice, Erica Brantley. It's indeed her. Erica will probably run into Kusanagi utterly soon. I have to rob him of his Prometheus secrets. Dustless rolled his eyes and left the airport side by side with Erica. He asked with a smile, To be honest, I'm quite fond of the myths of various countries in the world. I'm visiting Sardinia because I want to learn more about the local myths. I can tell. Erica nodded, but she was still lost for words. Your backpack is full of books about mythologies. You didn't even bring basic clothes. How much do you like those mythologies? Dustless shrugged. Sorry, I'll be leaving first. As if she had found an acquaintance, Erica hurried over. Before she left, she turned around and gave a charming smile to Dustless. See you again. We'll definitely meet again. Dustless nodded. His short answer was filled with confidence. A king and a knight are inseparable. What a strange fellow. Turning her head to look at Dustless, Erica felt that this guy was a little strange, but she couldn't tell what exactly. She had an indescribable feeling. In a dark corner. Ka ka ka. The white monster poked its head out from the ground and respectfully looked at the young man who had been waiting for a long time. It said respectfully, Master Dustless, I have found the trace of Kusanagi Protector. Well done, lead the way. Dustless nodded with satisfaction. He was determined to get Kusanagi Protector's Prometheus secret book. As for Kusanagi Protector himself, it was more suitable for him to be a human. After all, being a godslayer was a risky and dangerous profession. Kusanagi Protector didn't have as much experience as Dustless. Kusanagi Protector, you'll be a passerby in glory. In an alley with sparse people, the young man strolled forward and looked at the grimoire in his hand. It was left behind by his grandfather. The day before yesterday, he visited Sardinia to look for its owner. Whoosh! At this moment, two figures descended from the sky and blocked Kusanagi Protector's path. Who are you? Kusanagi Protector asked in confusion. He didn't know anyone in Sardinia. Idiot, do you still need to ask? Of course we robbed it. If you don't want to die, hurry up and give me the thing in your hand. Otherwise, I'll beat you until your mother doesn't recognize you. The people who blocked Kusanagi Protector's path were Dustless and White Zetsu. Hearing this, Kusanagi Protector's expression suddenly became silent, and his body involuntarily stepped back a few steps. Still want to run? Seeing this, Dustless couldn't help but sneer. Even gods couldn't run in front of him, let alone Kusanagi Protector, an ordinary human with a mortal body. Laser, a ray of light shot out from his fingertip, and the surrounding houses were attacked and suddenly collapsed, blocking Kusanagi Protector's path of retreat. White Zetsu, this kid doesn't seem to know what's good for him. You kill him. Without looking at Kusanagi Protector, Silver directly ordered White Zetsu to kill him. He couldn't talk to such a stubborn person, so he could only use force. Understood, Dustless-sama. White Zetsu nodded and then walked toward Kusanagi Protector, who was weak. It was a piece of cake to deal with him. Who are you? Why are you robbing my grandfather's things? Kusanagi Protector didn't give up and shouted. He tried to ask for help, but this place was like an isolated world. There was a dead silence, and no one responded to Kusanagi Protector. It's too much for you to be a godslayer. Give it to Dustless-sama, and you will live in peace in the future. White Zetsu slowly walked toward him. Kusanagi Protector's face became more and more ugly. He couldn't accept giving his grandfather's relics to strangers. He couldn't cross the hurdle in his heart. Chapter 1405. Dustless didn't want to fight with Kusanagi Protector, so the name of Bullying the Weak was naturally replaced by Dustless by White Zetsu. Yo! White Zetsu approached Kusanagi Protector with a smile. His nondescript face was particularly terrifying. Gulp! Kusanagi Protector choked. To be honest, he was a little afraid of White Zetsu. After all, he had been living in human society. The two monsters in front of him did not belong to the category of human beings. One destroyed a building with a snap of the fingers. The other was White Zetsu. On the other hand, Kusanagi Protector was just a human. He was really a little surprised. "Don't come over." Kusanagi Protector was forced to the corner, and the retreat behind him had been blocked by the ruins, and there was no escape. Little brat, who hasn't grown up yet? Dustless couldn't help but sigh. If he called out the grimoire, everything would be fine. Isn't it good to be a human being? What's more, with the character of Kusanagi Protector, the profession of God Slayer, which almost lived all day long, was really not suitable for him. Ow, ow, ow. At the same time, the sky on the other side suddenly shook violently, as if the ancient murderers had awakened, and everything in the world was trembling. This high-density power, it must be the wild boar of the war god. Dustless's eyes showed a look of understanding. He felt this power carefully and nodded secretly. It was not bad, and it was stronger than he imagined. "Do it, White Zetsu." Influenced by the power of the wild boar, Dustless couldn't wait to order. "Give it." White Zetsu heard the words and directly rushed over. Who would have thought that at this moment, the turbulent hurricane suddenly hit like a sharp blade? Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. White Zetsu's body was immediately torn apart, and it was ruthlessly cut into pieces like meat. "You are witnessing such a scene." Dustless frowned and looked at it. In the tornado, a purple-haired boy with a cloak came into sight. He was quite similar to a god in Dustless's impression. Is this guy the god that Kusanagi killed? Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light, and he still asked with uncertainty, "That? Are you that war god of the East, Welslana? Human? You actually know me?" The purple-haired youth's bored eyes were filled with interest as he asked, "What do you want? Are your subordinates planning to steal my slate?" "That's my slate." Dustless glared at him and corrected him. Then he said gloomily, "You're just a god. Listen up, if you don't want to die, get the hell away from me." "What did you say? Did I hear it wrong? How dare you tell me to get lost?" The purple-haired youth was stunned for a few seconds. Clearly, he was very surprised. This was the first time he had heard such a ridiculous phrase in his entire life. "You didn't hear it wrong. I'll repeat it again. Get the hell away from me." Dustless repeated impatiently. He was just a god. How many gods had he killed? This kid was so stubborn. Dustless didn't mind adding another record of killing a god to his tally. "You're just a human, but you're so arrogant." Welslana's young face trembled with anger. If Dustless didn't know about it, it would be fine. As a god, he could forgive the ignorance of a human. However, this guy had mentioned his name everywhere. Obviously, he knew that he was a god, but he still dared to be so arrogant and even told him to get lost. Welslana felt that his lungs were about to explode from anger. "Human, use your blood to appease the anger of a god." Welslana roared with great majesty and vigor. Then his body exploded with a towering aura. Ka. The aura of a god was extremely powerful. Even the ground around Dustless was tearing, and the houses were collapsing. However, Dustless's expression didn't change at all. "If you want to kill me, then do it." Hooking his finger, Dustless said fearlessly, "I don't care what relationship you have with this kid. The Prometheus secret book in Kusanagi Protector's hands is mine. If you want to stop me, the only way is to crush you." For a god, Dustless really didn't care. Not to mention the other worlds in the past, even the world of the Demon High School. When he left, he killed all the mythological systems, and countless gods were killed. "That's mine." Welslana's face twitched. This reckless human dared to openly steal a god's things. How could he tolerate it? If people knew about it, he would definitely become a joke in the mouths of all the gods. No. Shaking his finger, Dustless ignored Welslana's pale face. A faint light appeared on his body, and he turned into a divine rainbow that flashed gently. In the next second, he appeared in front of Kusanagi Protector. "Welslana, you've got it wrong. If I want something, then it's mine. The previous owner of this book was at most you. The current owner is me." Rudely snatching the book from Kusanagi Protector's hands, Dustless looked down at Kusanagi Protector, who had a terrified expression, and said coldly, "I will use my eye power to erase your memory of this period, and then give you a large sum of money. Live a peaceful life, Kusanagi Protector. The world of the God Slayer is not suitable for people like you to exist. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. You even dare to ignore me, a god. This speed? You have the qualification to be a demon king." He turned his head and looked at Dustless in surprise. Even Velislana was unable to catch up with the speed of light. He smiled excitedly and said, very good. Compared to this weak-looking kid, you are indeed more suitable to be a warrior. Even I could only vaguely sense the speed of the dark clouds." What he meant was that he allowed Dustless to get the Prometheus secret book. Chapter 1406. Dustless didn't even look at Welslana. This kid was too narcissistic. The secret book of Prometheus had already injured him. Did he still need his permission? Dustless opened his Rinnegan and looked at Kusanagi Mamoru's eyes. Dustless activated his eye power and glanced at him gently. The male protagonist, who often had small outbursts, suddenly had a confused look in his eyes. The memory of this period would also be erased. The secret book of Prometheus would also be forgotten. He would also turn from the male protagonist to a passerby. Strange, where is this? After a while, Kusanagi Mamoru was confused. He stood up and looked at Dustless and asked embarrassedly, "Excuse me, where is this place?" "This is Sardinia, Italy." Dustless briefly explained. He was extremely calm about Kusanagi Mamoru's reaction. He also handed the bank card that Luo Hao gave him to Kusanagi Mamoru. "The secret is 6 zeros, and there is 10 billion yen. This is what you got from participating in the public game. There is such a thing." Kusanagi Mamoru frowned. How come he didn't have any impression of this? In the end, a large amount of unfamiliar information poured into his mind. After a while, he thought that what Dustless said was true and left happily. Only the dumbfounded Welslana was left behind. "What is this situation? He doesn't remember me." Welslana's expression was gloomy, and he didn't hide his disbelief. He then looked at Dustless and said in a hoarse voice, "You are not an ordinary human. Where are you from? A God Slayer? There are only 6 God Slayers in the world. You don't seem to be one of them. There wasn't one before, but won't be long before a new king will be born. And in a few days, there will be an unlucky god that will be killed by me," Dustless said with a playful face. He stroked the slate in his hand. Becoming a God Slayer was close at hand. "Which god is it?" Welslana asked. He felt that Dustless's strength was good. The unlucky god that was killed deserved his sympathy. "I still don't know who it is." Pointing at his own head, Dustless said helplessly, "Your brain is so slow. The god that I'm about to kill is you, god of war the East, Welslana. You're courting death." Hearing this, Velislana's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He waved his hand and took out a golden sword. His body flashed, and the golden blade slashed towards Dustless's head. "Die, human." Recalling Dustless's arrogance, Wellislaner increased his strength. Naive, Dustless raised his foot indifferently, covered with armament hockey and glinting fruit ability. Dustless also kicked. Lightspeed kick. Clang, clang, clang. Velislana did not expect Dustless to be as fast as lightning. Even his strength was ridiculously strong. He was sent flying a few meters before he could stabilize his body. Although he was careless and did not use his full strength, it still showed that Dustless was not ordinary. Chapter 1407. Hearing that, Dustless shook his head. How could he give up something that he had spent so much effort to obtain? Absolutely not. "Sorry, Miss Erica, I can't do it." Dustless refused firmly and added, "This is very useful to me." "Useful to you?" This time, it was Erica's turn to be strange. She seemed to have thought of something and covered her mouth with her small hand. "Are you saying that you can use this grimoire?" "Of course." Dustless looked at Erica with clear eyes and nodded. I have successfully usurped an authority. The authority that Dustless mentioned was actually the white horse, which was deliberately left behind by Welslana. When it came to Dustless, it became his usurpation. After all, Erica didn't see it. Are you sure? Erica looked at Dustless suspiciously. This gigolo looked gentle and scholarly. The chance that he could kill a god was close to zero. Absolutely. Blinking, Dustless said seriously, Miss Erica, I have something else to do. Goodbye. Dustless passed through Erica's body. He really had something to ask Lucrezia Zola, the Witch of Sardinia, a friend of Kazuichiro Kusanagi, the Lord of Kusanagi Protectorate. With the stone slab, Wu Chun could pretend to have a relationship and ask about some secrets. Wait. Erica jumped and moved like a cunning rabbit. In an instant, she appeared in front of Dustless again. She opened her hands and continued to block Dustless's way unreasonably. The difference in her eyes is like night and day. Noticing the change in Erica's eyes, Dustless chuckled in his heart. This king is indeed an existence above human beings. The obscure look in Erica's eyes was obviously respect. This was normal. In today's world, including Dustless, who had just become one of the god slayers, there were only 7 of them. Almost every one of them had unparalleled power. Luo Hao was one of them. You want to be my follower? Dustless asked jokingly. Sure, but the scene of you robbing me just now left a bad impression on me. Miss Erica, who wants to be your attendant? A stinky toad lusting after swan meat? In your dreams. Erica pouted her lips and refused decisively. This guy is too arrogant. How dare he look down on me? I have to suppress his arrogance. Otherwise, how am I going to live in the future? Erica slandered in her heart. Is that so? They'll take my leave. Unfortunately, Dustless shrugged and brushed past Erica. Stop right there. Erica shouted. She pointed at Dustless's nose and said with great displeasure, You can leave if you want, but leave the grimoire behind and I will not stop you. Otherwise, please. At the end of the day, you still want to follow me. Dustless threw his backpack to Erica casually and stretched as he walked. Help me carry my luggage, and I can forgive your recklessness. Plop. Erica staggered and almost fell. How could this guy be so shameless? As a lady, she didn't let him carry her luggage, but this guy took the initiative. Hurry up and call your maid. Take us to Lucrezia Zola's place. Dustless said as he walked. If he remembered correctly, Welslana would appear there. He had to hurry over and kill Welslana and become the real Godslayer instead of continuing to impersonate him. Maid? You mean Ariana? Erica walked to Dustless's side. In fact, when she heard that Dustless was willing to let bygones be bygones, she heaved a sigh of relief. Some kings were temperamental. Perhaps an inexplicable action would anger him, and then something bad would happen. He's here. The sharp-eyed Erica saw the red car approaching at high speed and heaved a heavy sigh. She was really afraid that this confused maid would get lost. To Lucrezia Zola's place. Dustless took the initiative to get in the car, as if it was his own home. Ariana was speechless. She thought to herself, this guy is not polite at all. A rude guy who doesn't know how to take care of a lady. Angrily throwing the backpack to Dustless, Erica also got into the car and said softly, Ariana, do as he says. A few seconds later, the car sped toward Lucrezia Zola's house at a high speed. Obviously, this witch was quite famous. Erica knew more about her than Dustless, who knew nothing about her. There was still some distance before they reached Lucrezia Zola's place. Dustless took out the books in his backpack to pass the time. No matter how interested I am, I can't take the car without seeing. It's not good for my eyesight. Erica frowned. She was sitting right next to Dustless and could naturally see the words on the books clearly. Dustless simply glanced at her casually. His words almost made Erica breathless in frustration. I'm just choosing the power that suits me. Her lips twitching, Erica asked with a fake smile, So, you're choosing which god to kill? Do you think this is grocery shopping? In the end, Erica's tone was obviously several times higher than before. This guy's thoughts really gave him a headache. It was already a blessing from the heavens to be able to steal the authority of a god. To think that this guy had actually prepared a backpack full of mythological books. Moreover, they were all detailed introductions to the various gods. Could it be that he wanted to wipe out all the mythological systems? Yes, I'm indeed choosing, but it's really disappointing. There doesn't seem to be any suitable ones. Only Wellislana's power is barely decent and suitable. Looking at the scenery outside the window, Dustless sounded more or less disappointed and gloomy. He suddenly felt that there were very few powers that he could use. He had most of them, and some of them were even better than those so-called gods. You, Erica pointed at Dustless. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Dustless' tone was clearly saying that as long as he had the right authority, it wouldn't be a problem no matter how many gods he had. Chapter 1408. Erica couldn't help but feel speechless. Dustless's frivolous tone was as light as a feather. The so-called god was like air, not worth mentioning and could be trampled on and bullied at will. Dustless didn't say much. It was superfluous to say this to Erica, and he couldn't explain it clearly. There was a generation gap between two-dimensional creatures and three-dimensional creatures. We're here. About an hour later, Ariana woke up the sleeping Erica loudly. She was already lying limply on Dustless's body. Her sleeping appearance was very cute. Are we here? Rubbing her sleepy eyes, Erica's eyelids were still drooping. Clearly, she hadn't woken up yet and was still in a daze. I say, Miss Erica, you should be able to move your seat, right? Wu Che's indifferent voice sounded. Hearing that, Erica was furious. This is my carriage. What do you want me to move it? If anyone should move away, it should be you, brat. You want me to move my seat? Get this straight. Why am I sitting on your lap? Erica, who realized that she was in the wrong direction, exclaimed. She glared at Dustless with a face full of indignation, instinctively thinking that this sinister bad boy was playing tricks on her. However, before she could make things difficult for Dustless, a voice that exposed her was heard. It wasn't Dustless, but her maid, Ariana. Miss Erica, you rubbed yourself on him. Dustless even pushed you during that time, but you were like gummy candy. Speaking of this, Erica's little face was as red as an apple. Dustless's teasing gaze made her feel numb all over. She wished she could find a hole to crawl into. Don't tell me this guy used witchcraft to confuse me? Erica thought gloomily. She wasn't like this in the past. I don't see any new faces. A black cat was lying leisurely on the wall. Its gaze swept across them one by one until it landed on Dustless or the slate in his hand. A strange look flashed across its eyes. A talking black cat? Erica and Ariana were both stunned as they stared at the black cat in disbelief. My apologies for the sudden interruption, Ms. Coraziazola. Dustless introduced himself politely and said, To be honest, my friend's grandfather asked me to deliver this grimoire. He could just make up a random reason, as long as it was plausible. What a complicated relationship. Anyway, please come in first. The black cat licked its paws, even though the door had opened by itself, revealing a pitch-black corridor. Is this really your grimoire? Erica questioned again. In fact, they had learned about the Prometheus secret manual before. Although the intelligence said that the person was also an East Asian, his appearance was far from Dustless's. It's definitely me. Dustless patted his chest and said calmly. The real Kusanagi protector had been sent home by him, and his memory was erased. Now, that majestic posture was probably happy to count money. Creak. He followed the black cat all the way here and finally followed it up the stairs. On the sofa, a young woman wearing stockings and suspenders came into view. She was lying on her side. Isn't this your friend's grandfather? Why is he so young? Erica was speechless as she stared at Coraziazola. She looked so young, as if she had regained her youth. Dustless took a few steps forward and handed the slate to Coraziazola. You should be familiar with this grimoire, right? More than familiar with it. I gave it to Ichiro. Coraziazola's eyes flashed with nostalgia and the vicissitudes of life. She shook her head and said, "This grimoire is yours from now on. Leaving it with me will only cause endless trouble. I don't want to be the target of public criticism. Young man, it's yours." Why did Dustless find trouble with Kusanagi Protector? It was because of this slate. Therefore, for ordinary people, obtaining the slate would not bring them any benefits. Instead, it might cause them to be killed. And Coraziazola looked at Dustless in surprise and said in surprise, "God seems to approve of you. Is there really the power of God?" Erica's eyes widened and her lips trembled. She thought Dustless was just bragging. She did not expect it to be true this time. So this guy succeeded in killing a god? Looking at the calm Dustless, Erica envied him from the bottom of her heart. Although she was a genius, all geniuses paled in comparison to God. In this world, there were too many things that geniuses could not do. For example, killing a god was something that 99% of humans could not do. Ah, young man, you're not only handsome, but also capable. You are so fascinating. I would love to have a good night with you. Coraziazola swung her long legs and purposely exposed some of her private parts. Dustless was blind. Even Erica blushed, let alone a man. What a pervert. As if she had seen something dirty, Erica hurriedly turned her head to hide her embarrassment. She subconsciously looked at Dustless, but this guy was as calm as a steel mask. "Wells Lana, that guy is so arrogant. He actually dared to give me his power." After a while, Dustless's words stunned Erica and Coraziazola. They asked at the same time, "You haven't killed a god yet, but you've gained the power of a god." "Indeed, that self-righteous god gave it to me for free." Dustless shrugged and told them the truth. "But it doesn't matter. Wells Lana will soon become a thing of the past. You are so charming that even God is willing to give you his power. This is so unfair to those hard-working god slayers. Others relied on their strength to make a living. When it was Dustless's turn, god slayers came to him voluntarily. Was he relying on his face to make a living?" Chapter 1409. Face Recognition? Dustless sneered. That brat Wells Lana was trying to get himself killed. He purposely gave the privilege of the white horse to Dustless in the hopes that Dustless could defeat him. All in all, this grimoire belongs to you in the future. Lucurazia waved her hand as if Prometheus's secret grimoire was an unlucky star. "Do you think you could take it back?" Dustless rolled his eyes. He didn't need anyone's permission to do such a thing. "Oh, what an unruly brat. You don't even know how to be polite." Lucurazia stood up and pointed at the room at the end of the corridor. She didn't care that her hot body was exposed to Dustless's eyes. "It's late. You two can sleep in that room tonight." "No problem." Dustless nodded and walked over with the grimoire. "No, how can I sleep in the same room with him?" Erica raised her hands in apology and complained, "How can a lady sleep with an unruly?" "Then you can sleep on the sofa, Miss Erica." Dustless glanced at the arrogant Erica and interrupted her rudely. He shrugged and said, "I like to sleep by myself. Goodbye." "You." Erica stomped her feet in anger. She didn't expect Dustless to be so unreasonable and barbaric. He didn't even have the most basic gentlemanly demeanor. In the end, she had no choice but to follow Dustless. "Is your brain made of stone?" Erica mumbled after she caught up with Dustless. "Someone like me. I'm a snobbish person. You'll kick me out if I talk about gentlemanly." Dustless said rudely. "Only an idiot would sleep on the floor instead of the bed. Wells Lana will be fighting another god tomorrow, right? I need to rest up for now." Staying here was just waiting for Wells Lana to come knocking on his door. After all, the chances of finding these gods were slim. The only way was to wait for them to come knocking on his door. Creak. She gently pushed open the bedroom door. The room that greeted her eyes was rather simple. Other than a bed and the necessary dressing table, there seemed to be nothing else. "Go to sleep." Dustless pointed at the soft mattress and turned to leave. "Are you planning to sleep on the sofa?" Erica asked after a moment of surprise. She was even prepared to sleep on the floor. After all, there was only one empty room here. "You believe the words of that witch?" Dustless curled his lips and asked disdainfully, "How could such a large castle only have one bed? Go ahead and sleep." If you don't have a place to sleep, I'll take Lucurasia's room for myself, Dustless said casually. Poochie. Erica couldn't help but smile when she heard that. After glaring at Dustless, she blushed and said, We're outsiders after all. Guests should follow the host's wishes. Let's rest together today. Dustless was taken aback. Soon after, he asked maliciously, Aren't you afraid that before you do anything perverted to me, I'll definitely kill you? Erica warned fiercely. Her tone was a little awkward. Although she said it casually, she couldn't calm down for a long time. Who would be able to let go of a man and a woman alone in a room? Especially now that she and Dustless had only met once. If it were someone else, it would be hard for them to accept it. I'm going to take a shower. Dustless stretched himself and said lazily. When he was about to open the door, he found that it was locked from the inside. That witch's personality is similar to that of the witch, and she acted so quickly. Mr. Godslayer, don't speak to me in such a resentful tone. I'm doing this for your own good. That little girl has a powerful background. She's your only knight. You have no conscience. You should thank me. Lucurasia said in a resentful tone, as if she were a wronged wife. Dustless felt a chill run down his spine. Do you mean I should thank you? Dustless resisted the urge to rush out of the door. He said in a low voice, Your kindness is really unflattering. You might be misunderstood as a pervert or a pervert. That's not something I can control. Take care of yourself, young man. In my opinion, you and Kusanagi both have the potential to be playboys. Good luck. Lucurasia twisted her snake-like waist and left with a smile on her face. Ahem. Erica coughed dryly. She sorted out her thoughts and said, We do need to have a good talk. Talk. Dustless, who was in a dilemma, had to sit down on the ground. He curled his lips and said, Miss Erica, I don't think I need your help. As a godslayer, I'm the most desirable one for you sorcerers. Why is this guy so? Erica found herself speechless. She didn't have the right to negotiate with Dustless. She didn't even have a bargaining chip. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Dustless leaned against the wall with his eyes closed. After a while, he started snoring. This guy is really good at pretending. I've never heard of anyone who could sleep standing up. Erica snorted, looking as if she couldn't be fooled. When she was about to expose Dustless, she suddenly caught the mischievous smile at the corner of his mouth, which gave her the creeps. Erica's idea of teasing Dustless vanished. She might even lose her life. There was no need to take the risk. This guy was so weird sometimes. She'll probably come tomorrow. Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. He muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Chapter 1410. Erica had to admit the cruel truth. If you didn't kill the gods, it didn't mean that the gods wouldn't kill you. If the two gods fought, the island would collapse. No one would be able to stay out of it. As the saying goes, when the immortals fight, the mortals suffer. Are you two still going to stop me? Dustless asked while lying in Erica's arms. You? Lucurasia sighed. She had to admit that Dustless was telling the truth. Erica was also speechless. She clenched her delicate hand into a fist. However, in Dustless's eyes, it looked extremely fragile. This world was just so cruel. Humans were as insignificant as grains of sand. Even if thousands of them died, the gods wouldn't be moved. They were just ants in the end. I'll go with you. After a few seconds of silence, Erica said with determination, You once said that the king and the knight will never be separated. What a stubborn girl. Hearing this, Dustless broke free from Erica's arms. Under Lucurasia's shocked gaze, Dustless wasn't bound by the law of gravity at all. He flew up with Erica like a ghost. How did this guy do it? He only has the white horse, power of Welslana. Where did this power of flight come from? Lucurasia asked with her beautiful eyes wide open. Due to the excessive shock, her magnificent cleavage was swaying back and forth, as if it was about to explode. Pervert! Erica snorted and glared at Lucurasia. Her angry eyes were obviously saying, How dare you seduce my king in front of me? You'll be here for a few days. Young people nowadays are so petty. Good things should be shared. Lucurasia chuckled. Erica's red face was quite cute. She couldn't help but tease. Goodbye. Wu Chun turned into a rainbow light and disappeared into the horizon, like a meteor gradually disappearing into the eye socket. After Dustless left, Lucarazia mumbled to herself, "What a powerful and mysterious brat. This guy probably still has great strength. Maybe he can really slay a god and become a new surpasser." She suddenly felt that this boring world was much more interesting. "How confident are you in taking down Mercado?" Erica asked worriedly. After all, the opponent was a legendary god, and Mercado was not an ordinary god, but one of the strongest gods in Mediterranean mythology. "How much?" Dustless chuckled, as if he had heard the funniest joke. "You should be worried for Mercado. You should know that there isn't a suitable coffin on this island for him to use." Ew. Erica stared at Dustless angrily. He was about to become an enemy of a god, but this guy still looked so frivolous, as if he was bullying a hooligan. "Erica, the so-called gods are just a group of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. There is no need to worry. Mercado is no match for me. Besides, he's not the only one who will die today." Dustless said ambitiously. Gods were superfluous. He had made up his mind to kill every god he saw in the future. He would purify the air. "Stop right there, you idiot." Seeing that the distance between him and Mercado was getting closer and closer, Wu Chun raised his head and shouted. He didn't care about the existence of the storm. "Your head is mine." After saying that, Dustless launched an attack with peerless power. A large amount of golden light appeared in his mythology, and some kind of power swept out from it. A mere human dares to stop the steps of a god. "How dare you, a puny existence, speak rudely and call me a big guy?" Murkdo stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and looked at Wu Chun. His eyes were frightening. "Oh, it seems that you have some skills. This trick is not something that a normal human can have." Mercado looked up at the golden light above Dustless's head. Countless weapons were aimed at him. The momentum was quite huge. Gulp. What kind of god's power is this? Erica was also dumbfounded. Looking at the various divine weapons above Dustless's head, she was in a daze. It was the first time she had seen so many divine weapons. "This is my king's treasure." The monarch's treasure contained many peerless weapons that could suppress a deity. Wu Chun did not say much as he explained indifferently. "Have a good taste of the rain of bullets." He raised his arm and lowered it gently. Countless divine weapons shot out. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Without exception, they all pierced mercilessly toward Mercado. There were so many of them that it was like a rainstorm. The dark night sky was suddenly dyed golden. If I am a god, how can I be hurt by weapons made by humans?" Mercado snorted disdainfully. His weapon, which was as thick as a scepter, swept out. Bang, bang, bang. All the weapons that fell down were scattered. They fell to the ground like scrap metal. The momentum of this magnificent attack was high, but the power was not impressive. "You want to kill a god with this embroidered pillow? Human, there is something wrong with your head." Mercado sneered. He raised his strong arm and was about to wave the weapon in his hand to kill Dustless. However, he was surprised to find that his right arm could not move. He turned his head and saw that his right arm had been bound by an iron chain. "This is really boring. Is the so-called god only at this level? He is as weak as a child. He doesn't even have the fighting spirit to move me." Chapter 14:11. Mercado looked at the iron chain wrapped around his arm. It was shiny, and the surface looked like it was plated with gold. It looked very solid and hard. When did this guy attack? Why didn't I feel anything? Mercado murmured as he looked at Dustless. He pondered for a few seconds and asked, "Was the attack just a distraction? Your real purpose was to control me with this chain?" When he was facing Dustless's attack, he was tense and didn't care about other aspects. Deceiving others? Stop trying to justify yourself. I didn't expect a god to be so thick-skinned. Mercado, you think too highly of yourself. Dustless said with disdain. There was no need to sneak attack Mercado. This guy was a big guy, and his reaction was like a turtle. It was easy to deal with him. He could just use his advantage of speed to suppress him. Humph, puny human, do you think you can control me with this kind of scrap metal? Mercado sneered as he pointed at the light falling from the ground. It was obviously the weapon just now. He said with disdain, "This broken weapon is a lesson. For God like me, breaking it is just a small matter." As soon as he finished speaking, Mercado raised his sturdy arm and used all his strength to smash Dustless. Boom! The strange weapon also tilted down. The moment it was about to hit Dustless and Erica, Mercado's arm stopped above Dustless's head. What's going on? Erica was puzzled. She took the initiative to leave Dustless's side. She looked at it from another angle and found that Mercado was tightly bound by the previous chain. It was impossible to attack Dustless. A weapon that can bind a god? Is there such a powerful weapon in the world? Erica was quite confused. She was a knowledgeable person, but she had never heard of such a weapon. Compared to good separation sword, I trust Heavenlock more, especially for you so-called gods. Heavenlock is simply a natural enemy to deal with you. Dustless explained softly. The moment Mercator was lifted up by the Heavenlock, it meant that the outcome of the battle had been decided. His identity as a god had become his greatest disadvantage. The higher the divinity, the greater the effect of the Heavenlock. Tailor-made to deal with a god? That's the mortal enemy of the gods. Erica covered her mouth in shock, fearing that someone else would see her shock. You've comprehended it very quickly. That's what I meant. Dustless nodded faintly. To a certain extent, the heavenly lock was the natural enemy of God. Funny. Mercado coldly snorted and laughed sarcastically. God's natural enemy? You're just a human. What do you take God for? This is blasphemy. If that's the case, then you could try to struggle out. Dustless calmly said. Meerkat wasn't strong, but his temper wasn't small. I'll destroy this broken chain right now for you to see. Mercado clenched his left hand into a fist. His eyes locked onto the long chain of Heavenlock, and he immediately used all of his strength to attack it. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of the explosion spread throughout the night. The violent fluctuations dug a deep hole in the ground, but the Heavenlock was still safe and sound. There wasn't a single scar left on it. How can there be such a weapon in the world? Meerkat said with a pale face. If the Heavenlock existed, wouldn't it mean that Dustless was invincible? It would be easy for him to deal with any god. Go to hell now. He glanced at it lightly. The void trembled slightly, and a strange, spiral-shaped sword swept out. It was dark red in color. The moment it appeared, the void became solemn. To be able to die under this parting sword, it's not a disgrace to your name as a god. Dustless coldly stared at Meerkat. Such a big guy didn't seem to have any outstanding power. He would just kill him. Out of sight, out of mind. This is parting sword. EA? How can you have such a thing? Erica raised her voice several times. Her tone sounded sharp. You know it. Dustless was surprised. Explain it to me. Of course I know it. How can I not know such a famous divine weapon? Don't underestimate me. Erica rolled her eyes at Dustless and said in detail, Parting sword, is believed to originate from Enki, the great god of Mesopotamia and Babylonian mythology. It is the narrative poem of the creation of Babylonian mythology. It is even rumored that this sword has the power to cut the world. By the end, Erica was already in a mess. The way she looked at Dustless had changed. It was as if she was looking at a super monster. First, he took out the Heavenlock that could bind all gods. Then, he took out the parting sword, that could destroy the world. How could the other god, Slayer, survive? What is the background of this kid? Are these all usurped powers? Erica asked suspiciously. She was curious about Dustless's mysterious identity. Her unblinking eyes made Dustless feel uncomfortable, as if she had discovered a new continent. It can indeed cut the world. As the host of Wong Kai Bao, Dustless naturally knew the power of parting sword. He had used it before and could easily cut the entire world. And the stronger the host was, the stronger the power of parting sword would be. Now you can die in peace, my Lord God. Dustless raised the parting sword, and smiled. The word Lord God was full of endless ridicule and ridicule, as if deliberately saying, "So what if you are a god? You are still a clown who can't resist." A heaven lock and an extra parting sword, EA, was solved. Chapter 14:12. It was not that Dustless was looking down on Mercado, but the two weapons, parting sword EA and heaven lock, were more than enough to deal with him. Other weapons were simply superfluous. Disappear. After saying that, Dustless swung the parting sword in his hand. The crimson, violent air waves raged on the front end of the big sword. Crack, crack, crack. A very discordant sound came from the void. The crisp sound was depressing. The vast sky was as fragile as vegetables and fruits, and obvious cracks could be seen. Damn it, Mercado was full of regret. He tried his best to escape from the absolute restraint of Heavenlock. However, the iron chain, which was only as thick as his finger, was harder than anything he had ever seen in his life. He could not shake it. Poof! Mercado, who could not move his body to avoid the attack, was instantly severely injured. His abdomen was directly penetrated. The huge wound, which was 5 or 6 meters long, shattered his internal organs. He could even see the world on the other side through the wound. So powerful. He killed Mercado, one of the strongest gods in the Mediterranean Sea, with just one simple move. Erica's mind was in turmoil. Looking at Mercado, who had been killed, she suddenly had the illusion that God was just an acquaintance of hers. He could easily crush Mercado with just one move. After being stunned for a while, Erica floated to Dustless and asked excitedly, "Did you succeed? Did you succeed?" Hearing that, Dustless just shook his head indifferently. He did not even look at Mercado's body. It was worthless and had no power to shine. "You have been hiding for so long. Are you still not coming out?" Ripples appeared in the sky. Dustless's voice spread far and wide. "Someone is here." Erica immediately picked up her sword and stood in front of Dustless, full of vigilance. She looked around like a bodyguard. In Erica's words, a knight's duty was to protect the king. "He has been observing for a while. I thought that when I killed Mercado, he would come out to stop me. After all, it was his gift." As he spoke, a purple-haired youth with a cape also floated into the sky. His calm eyes met Dustless's gaze. Even though he hid it well, the twitching corners of his eyes could still tell that the youth was not calm. "The god of war of the East, Welslana." Dustless squinted his eyes slightly, and a hint of joy flashed across his brows when he recognized the identity of the young man. Dustless subconsciously touched the stone slab in his arms. For Dustless, Welslana was far more tempting than Mercado. In Dustless' eyes, the two were not even comparable. "You're really surprising." Welslana lowered his head. He had just witnessed the battle between Dustless and Mercado. Instead of calling it a battle, it was more like bullying a primary school student. "But I'm sorry, I'm not that stupid. If you want to kill me, you can't do it, young man." Welslana's tone gradually became cold. Compared to the last time they met, this time his tone was obviously heavier. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning suddenly flashed in the sky, and the thick lightning struck mercilessly toward Dustless and Erica. "Small tricks. Use your own strength to deal with yourself." Dustless smirked. At the same time, he picked up the stone slab and aimed it at Welslana in the sky. "Don't mess around. If you use that magic book without permission, you may lose your life. I will not allow you to do so. Never." Erica stood in front of Dustless and said sternly, "A human's body would definitely die after using the stone slab. Do you still think I'm a human?" "Erica." Dustless did not fight back. He pulled her to the side and aimed the stone slab at Welslana. He smiled and said, "This reckless guy is very arrogant. He deliberately left his power on the stone slab in the hope that I can defeat him. For this, he did not hesitate to give up his power. You are indeed very strong. I have to say, I did underestimate you before." Golden light floated in his hand, and a golden sword appeared in Welslana's hand. For some reason, he suddenly regretted giving his power to Dustless. This kid was a dangerous person with extraordinary strength. If I don't use it, it will be a pity. Dustless's eyes lit up. He made up his mind to use the stone slab, and suddenly a large amount of white light shot out. Come and see, I will not lose to my own strength. Welslana roared. He held the sword with both hands and looked down at Dustless, or rather, at his stone slab. What a crazy man. Seeing this, Erica sighed softly. She moved closer to Dustless's face and sneaked a kiss on Dustless's face while he was in a daze. She left a kiss mark on his face. The awkwardness and discomfort on her face disappeared completely. Erica said seriously, "This is a reward from a beauty to a hero. I just want to say that I've been taken advantage of by you. I'll definitely take it back in the future." Dustless stared at Erica's curvaceous body and said, "Roar, roar, roar." A majestic and scorching roar came from within the stone slab. Then, a large ball of golden flames whizzed out from within the stone slab. A large white horse made entirely of flames rushed into the sky, its entire body burning with extremely hot flames. Boom, boom, boom. Welslana, who liked to fight head-on, was determined not to retreat. He focused on the incoming flame and raised his golden sword without hesitation. However, hope was beautiful, but reality was cruel. Welslana was immediately dealt a fatal blow. A pillar of fire pierced through him. Chapter 14:13. The flaming horse hit Welslana without any surprise. Perhaps this guy wanted to test the power of his clone, so he didn't even try to dodge. With the golden sword in his hand, he took it head-on. You think I'll lose to my clone? In your dreams. Bathed in the flames, Welslana's arrogant personality didn't change. Although he was still uncomfortable from being roasted, as time went on, he slowly got used to it. Sure enough, you can't trust other people's moves. With a light sigh, Dustless turned into a stream of light and disappeared, pouncing out at the speed of light. So fast, Welslana's pupil shrunk. He subconsciously picked up the golden sword, but he felt that his hands were empty. He subconsciously looked at his right hand. Ugh, where's my golden sword? Welslana said angrily. In the blink of an eye, his golden sword disappeared without him knowing. Could it be that Dustless stole it? Erica sharply guessed that this was the most likely possibility. The Prometheus secret book was used to steal the power of a god. Maybe the attack, just now, was just a cover, and this guy's real goal was to steal the golden sword that could split a god's divinity. Erica thought to herself as she looked at the light floating in the sky with anticipation. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the sky, the light gathered, and a human figure appeared. The golden light was compressed into Dustless's back, and he was holding a golden sword in his hand. TSK, TSK. Welslana, thank you for your generosity. Jiang, don't you think this golden sword and my heaven lock are perfect together? One can split a god's divinity, and the other can bind all gods. Touching the golden sword with satisfaction, Dustless didn't care about Welslana's gloomy expression as he talked to himself. Don't be too arrogant, human. Welslana roared. His face twisted as he said coldly, "It is indeed praiseworthy that you can steal my power, but that's only one of my many powers. It's not worth mentioning." Boom, boom, boom. As soon as he finished speaking, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Boundless lightning poured down in torrents, and all of them landed on Dustless's head. How can such a weak attack work on me? Looking up at the falling lightning, Wu Chun sneered disdainfully. Several black balls emerged from his body, which then turned into a circular shield to protect Dustless. The truth-seeking jade is not something that can be broken by such an attack. Dustless, who was inside the enchantment, was safe and sound. He could hear the loud explosion of the lightning striking the truth-seeking jade, but Welslana was probably very depressed. Even if he stood there and let him hit him, the defensive barrier of the truth-seeking jade was not something that could be easily broken. Even a god was no exception. Damn, why is the tortoise shell so hard? Welslana tried his best to summon lightning. Lightning filled the air under the stormy night sky, but when it landed on the defensive barrier of the truth-seeking jade, it was unable to move at all. This guy's a bit strange. I must take back the powers of the white horse and golden sword. Velaslana clenched his fist and made up his mind. At the same time, he heard a crisp cracking sound. Looking at the source, the truth-seeking jade's impenetrable exterior started to show signs of cracking. The attack worked? Velaslana's face was filled with anticipation. Stupid, don't you know? I purposely released the defense of the truth-seeking jade, not your attack. Otherwise, how could I fight back? Dustless stepped out, and a large amount of light gathered at the tip of his foot. He lifted his foot slightly, and then a vast amount of light poured out and rushed toward Velaslana in a straight line. Light speed kick. The light disappeared quickly and came quickly. When Velaslana realized the danger, it was already too late. The golden light had already swallowed him completely. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions rose into the air, and the place where Velaslana was standing became a huge, flaming mushroom cloud. He was also affected, and his whole body was emitting black smoke. One could even smell the smell of barbecued meat that was filled with the smell of fire. Ugh, ugh. Smelling this disgusting seven tails, Erica's power started to churn. She couldn't help but feel disgusted. She knew that Velaslana was burning. Barbecued God? Erica started to admire Dustless's courage. She thought to herself, this guy is definitely not a normal human. It's just that there's no magic in his body, and this powerful strength doesn't seem to belong to a god. This means that it's his own strength. Erica's eyes turned and revealed a wise and intelligent expression. I remember that among the few god slayers, only Jiangnan heroine Queen Luo, Hao, and Dustless's type are quite similar. Also, their names seem to belong to China. Could it be that the two of them have some kind of relationship? It was just as Erica guessed. Dustless and Luo, Hao did have some kind of relationship. They were master and disciple type. You've committed a capital crime. I'll kill you. Velaslana's furious roar came from the rolling, blazing fire. He never realized that he wanted to kill so much. He was in a terrible state because he didn't have a car. His hair was even set on fire. Although he put it out in time, it was still as messy as a chicken's nest. His face was also black, like a coal miner who had just come out of a coal mine. His whole body was dirty, and he didn't have the image of God. People who didn't know him might think that he was a beggar. However, Dustless turned a deaf ear to Velaslana's clamor. He focused on touching the golden sword. After a while, his eyes flashed with excitement. I'll use you to test its power. Chapter 14:14. This guy wants to use me as a whetstone. Seeing through Dustless's intentions, Velaslana's face suddenly trembled violently. He felt a great sense of humiliation. If he was killed by Dustless using his weapon, where would he put his dignity as a god? Although his dignity had been trampled on, he still had to make Dustless pay with his blood to wash away the humiliation. Aren't you very fast? Open your eyes and watch. Velaslana shouted as he pointed at the sky with one of his arms. Then a big red bird circled in the sky. Is that a phoenix? Dustless frowned as he locked his eyes on Velaslana. He knew the ability of this power, which could allow him to surpass his opponent's speed for a short period of time. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As expected, a gust of wind swept up from Velaslana's body, and then his entire body disappeared as if he had teleported. Bang! Dustless suddenly felt a strong attack on his chest. He reached out and touched it. His body was broken, and there was a huge fist mark. What's going on? The sneak attack was successful. Velaslana quickly retreated. He thought that Dustless would be severely injured. Who would have thought that he would be fine after being punched by him? The wound was only covered with golden light. What a strange ability. How many gods did this kid kill? If I knew that he had such terrifying potential, I wouldn't have given him the white horse. What a shame. Velaslana was extremely gloomy. He finally understood the pain of overdoing it. It was all his own fault that he ended up in this situation. But don't think that this is over. I won't give up so easily. Welslana clenched his teeth stubbornly. He would never back down. Roar, roar, roar. The divine beast's roar echoed in the sky. Dustless looked up and saw a majestic bull standing in the sky. Bull, activating this ability, the host's strength seems to increase. Staring at Welslana's fist that had countless veins popping out, Dustless still responded calmly without changing his expression. Did he need to be afraid of elementalization? There was no need at all. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Welslana was as fast as lightning, and it was impossible for ordinary people to catch him with their naked eyes. They could only vaguely feel that the black shadow was rushing toward Dustless at an extraordinary speed. Got it. Welslana, who was very close to Dustless, roared, and his fist containing explosive power whizzed out and blasted towards Dustless. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless instantly exploded, turning into a myriad of photons that scattered to every corner of the sky. They were like countless fluorescent fireflies. Dustless. Erica's eyes widened, and her voice was filled with sorrow. Dustless's figure and scent had disappeared without a trace, as if he had been killed by a single punch. He had completely perished. If I killed him. Don't worry, as a god, I'm very merciful. I'll immediately send you to the underworld to continue your predestined relationship. Thank the greatness of the gods. Welslana spoke in an extremely arrogant tone, as if he was looking down on everything in existence. He can't be dead. Erica held the western sword in her hand, and her determined eyes were as bright as the stars. What an eyesore. Even a human can be such an eyesore. How annoying are you? Welslana said in disdain. Both of you can die together. This script is perfect. After saying that, he swooped down like a swallow. Erica's eyes were also determined, and her gaze that saw through life and death was moving. A mere human dares to be so arrogant in front of God like me. This is blasphemy. You and that man just now both deserve to die. Welslana's whole body was stinging. Thinking of being roasted like livestock by Dustless, he was filled with resentment. A god was not a chicken, duck, goose, or fish. Now his old face was still burning in pain, and his dignity was trampled on by Dustless. He was especially depressed. Both of you disappear together, and the humiliation I suffered today will be washed away, human. After saying that, Welslana's aura became even stronger. He was like a source of power, and high-density ripples kept erupting from his body, like water temperature, wave after wave, occupying the entire sky in an instant. Welslana, who fell with anger, was undeniably powerful. Even the heavens felt his will, and the energy ripples overflowing from his body fell with him, as if the entire sky was crashing down. Die! Welslana clenched his fist and laughed excitedly. Just as he was about to crush Erica, a golden light appeared above his head without warning. What is this? Feeling the sharp edge locked onto him, Welslana was shocked. He retracted his hand and looked up instinctively. The golden cold light mercilessly slashed at his head. In shock, Welslana quickly turned his head to the side. Blood splattered in the air. Although Welslana avoided the fatal injury immediately, there was still a shocking crack on his back. Who is it? Holding back the pain on his back, Welslana stared at the light. A young man holding a light sword appeared above his head. You're not dead. The Dustless that came into view was completely unscathed. There was nothing wrong with him at all. Welslana's old blood spurted out uncontrollably. What was going on? He was hit with all his strength, but he was not injured at all. Did he have to be so overpowered? Whoosh! Dustless was silent. A layer of light flashed across his body, and in the next second, Dustless appeared in front of Welslana. He came and went without a trace. I'm not dead, but unfortunately you're going to die, Mr. God. The golden light gathered in his hand became brighter and brighter. Dustless stared at Welslana with a stern expression. He made up his mind and killed him instantly. Yasukani no Magatama. Chapter 14-15. Yasukani no Magatama. Dustless quietly approached Welslana, and the distance between the two was very close, so the dense flashes of light did not miss any of them, and all of them hit the poor god. Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. The power of the Yasukani no Magatama was undeniable, and the fierce light bullets all hit Welslana. As a god, he was not easy to deal with. Even though his body was full of holes, and there were burn holes everywhere, he still maintained his consciousness, even though he was in so much pain that he was gritting his teeth. Ah, that's not easy. The body of a god is really strong. Dustless smiled lightly, and there was a frivolous smile on his face. Looking closely, Welslana's body was like a hole, and Dustless even suspected that if water was poured in from one of the holes, water would flow from all over his body. Your vitality is really strong, as expected of a god. Dustless rarely praised, and if it was an ordinary person, their body might have been pierced by the Yasukani no Magatama. However, these words were extremely harsh in Welslana's ears, and his eardrums were hurting, and in the end, there were even deep red bloodstains. ****. Welslana was furious, and he resisted the urge to vomit blood and stared at Dustless without blinking. His eyes were as sharp as knives, and he wanted to turn him into a stick. That was the only way to vent his anger. Dustless was obviously mocking him, saying that only the weak would be beaten. It's almost time to end this. Dustless's eyes were cold, and he had no interest in continuing to play. Golden chains shot out from the void behind him, and they locked onto Welslana like a poisonous snake. The glowing chain was the heaven lock that Dustless used to bind Mercado. This is the heaven lock. Damn it. Seeing this, Welslana's pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but step back. When Dustless used the heaven lock to bind Mercado, he clearly saw that Mercado couldn't break free. Therefore, he was in awe of the heaven lock. All gods would be locked down. The greater the divinity, the stronger the person, the more they would not be able to escape the nightmare created by the heavenly lock. Trying to run? Erica strode forward and appeared behind Welslana. She stared at him unkindly and said, "Surrender. Your future has already been decided. You are nothing to be afraid of at all with your injuries." "You, humph. It's fine if that guy is a pervert, but even a witch like you is looking down on me?" A murderous intent flashed across Welslana's scarlet eyes. He was extremely displeased with Erica's attitude. It was fine if she admitted defeat in front of Dustless. He had nothing to say. After all, he was not as strong as Dustless, and his skills were inferior. But you, a mere human, have to see who you're dealing with before you get carried away, God. Then I'll kill you first. With a ferocious smile, Welslana's shocking hole was healed. Even the scars were not left behind. It was repaired in an instant. This seems to be the ability of male sheep. Dustless narrowed his eyes and said in realization. He was quite familiar with the ability of Welslana, the god of the army of the East. "Recovered," Erica said in shock. Her hands, which were holding the sword, were already sweating. "I'll start with you." With a cold smile, Welslana flashed and came in front of Erica. His golden sword had been taken away. Now, he could only rely on his fists. But a god was a god. Even if it was just a simple fist, the power was extremely exaggerated. It was not difficult to severely injure or even kill Erica. When the fist was about to hit Erica, Welslana suddenly stopped and looked down. There was a shiny chain wrapped around his waist. "Do you think I don't exist? Get over here." With a gentle pull, Dustless pulled Welslana over. The golden sword in his hand, that had been waiting for a long time, slashed out. Pucci. Welslana's left arm was chopped off by Dustless. His face was in so much pain that it was almost twisted. Even so, his murderous intent was still locked onto Dustless. Why is it different from what I imagined? Looking at Welslana, who was howling on the ground, Dustless frowned. At this moment, a fragrant wind suddenly came from beside him. He turned around and saw that it was Erica. "Your face is frighteningly red, Erica." Dustless observed Erica with a head full of confusion. He was still fine just now. Could it be? Dustless's face lit up. He vaguely understood what Erica meant. Just when he was about to ask, he suddenly found it difficult to speak. He licked his lips, but his mouth was blocked by Erica's lips. Then a lot of knowledge about Welslana flooded into his mind. The world in his eyes began to change. It became golden. Countless long swords stopped in the air and all pointed at Welslana. Bastard! Smelling the scent of death that he had never felt before, Welslana struggled. However, the heaven lock was too strong. Even if he used all his strength, it was useless. Whoosh! Whoosh! Countless long swords stabbed out. Welslana was like a porcupine. His body was covered with all kinds of weapons. A god of a generation fell just like that. The next time we meet, I will definitely kill you and your little lover. Welslana's body gradually collapsed and disappeared. He stared at Dustless fiercely, wanting to remember this hateful face forever. Idiot, if I can kill you once, I can kill you 10 or even 100 times. Dustless snorted, ignoring Welslana's threat. At the same time, a soul-deep exhaustion rushed into his heart. Dustless fainted without realizing it. Chapter 14:16. In a strange white world. Dustless was lying quietly. After a long time, his nose wrinkled as if he noticed the difference in this world. Although he was puzzled, he still closed his eyes. So soft. The soft touch made Dustless restless. He wanted to open his eyes and look at this strange world, but he enjoyed the comfortable touch and couldn't help but rub it twice. So soft? Of course, after all, it's me. But a crisp and pleasant voice suddenly came, and Dustless opened his eyes. A pink-haired girl with a ponytail came into view. She was glaring at Dustless and said angrily, "But saying that your mother is so soft is disgraceful. What's more, he even had such dirty thoughts. How rude. Mother." Hearing this strange name, Dustless's mouth twitched wildly. He is also a person who is hundreds of years old, and his mother has always been Uchiha Mikoto. "Who are you, little brat?" Standing up and stretching, Dustless asked in a bad mood. "Give me a reasonable explanation, or I will let you know the horror of offending me." She dares to ask me to call her mother. Dustless got goosebumps just thinking about it. He really can't say such a disgusting name, and he has nothing to do with this girl. The girl is about 10 years old. She has a good appearance and a slender figure. If compared with the beautiful figures of Lucrezia Zola or Erica Brandery, she is the slender type. She has a cute baby face and figure that makes people want to praise. The girl's long blonde hair is parted to the left and right, and she is wearing a thin white dress. But compared to anyone else, she has a more flirtatious woman feeling. "Little brat." Hearing this, Pandora suddenly pouted and said in dissatisfaction, "You used my leg as a pillow to sleep, and you didn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, you call me a little brat. This is a serious crime." "Your name is Pandora, right?" Dustless suddenly replied as he stared at the pink-haired girl, a strange glint flashing in his eyes. The origin of the Godslayers was related to her, and the person who managed the Godslayer reincarnation technique was Pandora. "You know me? Who are you?" Pandora was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless as if she was looking at a monster. Very few people knew of her existence. "My name is Dustless, a man who is about to become a Godslayer." Glancing at Pandora, Dustless continued to lie in the unfamiliar world. He kept feeling that it was somewhat familiar. Perhaps it was just his dream. "Oomph. Since you know that I'm Pandora, you should also know my ability. Since you know that I'm a woman who can give you everything, be obedient. Be good and call me Mommy." With her hands on her hips, Pandora said very seriously. She was in charge of the Godslayer reincarnation technique, and it was also Pandora who created all the Godslayers. No, no, no. I won't listen to you. Some things have no choice. Since you dared to appear here, you have to help me become a Godslayer." Dustless smiled mysteriously as he shook his finger gently. As a transmigrator, he knew the inside story that no one else knew. "You seem to know a lot, kid." Pandora frowned slightly. Even a lively and active her was a little downcast. The man in front of her was different from all the god slayers in the past. His bright eyes seemed to be able to see through a person's thoughts, which made Pandora feel a little guilty. Even if the gods help humans, they have their own motives. You are no exception. Glancing lightly at Pandora, Dustless explained, "Although I don't know what you're doing, you should have checked my body just now. In fact, my body doesn't need you to modify it, and at the same time, I don't need this so-called power. I have so many abilities that I can't use them all in my lifetime. Pursuing those powers is just to pass the time." Dustless gave an answer that made Pandora want to vomit blood. Her body trembled. "I have so many abilities that I can't use them all in my lifetime." How arrogant was this sentence? This little brat has a lot of puzzles. Dustless's thoughts raced. He had heard many rumors about Pandora in his previous life, and some of the descriptions were quite accurate. Pandora was created by Zeus, the king of the gods, and the gods. The gods gave her perfection, but at the same time, they gave her the mission of bringing disaster to mankind. She carried Pandora's box to punish mankind for the sin of privately using fire civilization. Pandora was also human, and the gods' actions were equivalent to betraying mankind. The god of disobedience was also one of the disasters, and the bottom of Pandora's box was the last hope. The god slayer should be the hope at the bottom of Pandora's box. Dustless had heard countless versions of the above rumors. He didn't know the specific facts. In short, he was sure that Pandora had a bad relationship with the gods. Otherwise, she wouldn't help mankind kill the gods. Of course, these were not important. This had nothing to do with Dustless. And even if he didn't carry out the reincarnation ceremony of the god slayer, Dustless didn't care. Anyway, he could use Rinnegan to control Pandora to carry out the reincarnation ceremony. Of course, it was only to obtain the authority of the gods. As for the change of body, forget it. Dustless didn't think that the bodies of the gods were more heaven-defying than his body of Juby. Although you are very strong, and the authority of the gods is dispensable to you, at least you should respect me a little." Pandora blinked and said. Her tone was full of helplessness, and she felt a headache. Dustless was the most heaven-defying and abnormal existence she had ever seen. Ordinary god slayers would be seriously injured after killing the gods. They would be infinitely close to being disabled and close to death. Only Dustless was an exception. Even if he killed 2 gods in succession, he didn't have the slightest injury. He was lively and extremely healthy. Chapter 14:17. Pandora admitted that compared to other god slayers, Dustless, who was a surpasser, was almost perfect in all aspects and had the qualifications to negotiate. Who would have thought that he was even stronger? Moreover, Dustless was not injured at all and did not need to change his body. "You're a little strange." After staring at Dustless for a while, Pandora finally gave a strange answer. There was only one outcome for an ordinary human who used the Prometheus secret manual. Their entire body would collapse and die. However, Dustless used it without any adverse effects. Although you don't need to change your body, you still need to make some modifications to your body. Taking a look at Dustless, Pandora patiently explained, "If you don't do the basic transformation, even if you kill a god, it's impossible to obtain their authority. Of course, if you don't care about those authorities, you don't have to. Don't want it? That's the reward for my hard work. How can I not want it?" Upon hearing this, Dustless refuted. "Then feel free to take off your clothes," Pandora said abruptly. Pandora said extremely abruptly. Immediately, Wu Chun seemed to be electrocuted, and his whole body stiffened. "Take off my clothes?" Looking at her suspiciously, Dustless felt like she was looking for a lab rat to do an experiment. He had never heard of a reincarnation warlock taking off their clothes. "You're a little special. Special people have to be treated with corresponding special methods. Do you understand? For example, you're different from other god slayers. After they kill a god, almost all of them are in a state of near death. If you let yourself enter a state of near death, I can treat you the same as they do." Pandora shrugged and said. Her tone made one nod involuntarily. You'd better not do anything strange. Giving a warning glance at Pandora, Dustless's threatening intent was full. No matter what world it was, or whose world it was, Dustless had the certainty to kill a person, even if the other party was an unfathomable god. Of course, I'm your mother. If you mention that word again, don't blame me for being rude. Wu Chun said with an ashen face. Inexplicably, a mother appeared out of nowhere. It was a pain in the ass. All right, take off your clothes. Don't waste my precious time. Pandora waved her hand. She knew when to stop joking. Ka ka ka. After saying that, a wave of energy surged out of Dustless's body. His clothes instantly disintegrated into pieces and slowly fell to the ground like goose feathers. Very strong. Your muscles are well proportioned. Pandora commented faintly. Then she said, All right, please close your eyes. Wucha nodded slightly and closed her eyes seriously. Pandora's expression was serious and solemn. She didn't seem to be joking with her. Although this eccentric god seemed unreliable, she wouldn't fool around casually. Huh? Pandora had forcefully kissed him during this period of time. F***CK. Dustless cursed in his heart. After being in love for so many years, he did not expect to be schemed against by a little girl and even be kissed by her. The ritual is complete, Pandora suddenly said with a serious expression. Hearing that, Dustless was stunned. The hostility in his body also dissipated. He asked in surprise, The ritual is complete? So fast? Moreover, if it's completed so easily, what's the point of me taking off my clothes? Dustless's face darkened. He felt like he had been fooled. Well, don't mind such a simple thing. Pandora chuckled and said, Good boy. I'm your mother. Get to know your body. It's Breaking 96, one blade cremation. In the quiet room, Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. There were still flames in his eyes. Damn that Pandora. Don't let me catch her next time. Otherwise, humph. Wu Chun gritted his teeth and said, being chased and called his son, and being asked to call him mother, Wu Chun felt a headache and was speechless. No matter the people in each world, there would always be a few weirdos. Someone seems to be grabbing me. With a strange expression, Dustless suddenly found that the quilt was bulging and he was sleeping on it. The environment was familiar. He guessed that he was now in Miss Lucrezia's house. 3 hands. Dustless's expression became even more strange. He suddenly felt that there were 3 hands grabbing him under the quilt. He was stunned when he lifted the quilt. Erica, don't hug my leg when you sleep. And Miss Lucrezia, take your hands away from my important parts. Wu Chan raised his voice several decibels and shouted angrily, waking up the 2 people who were sleeping soundly. It was an accident. I couldn't help it. It's an unavoidable factor. Lucrezia retracted her hands embarrassedly. At the same time, she turned her back to Dustless and sniffed her fingers. She looked as if she wanted more, which made Dustless feel stifled. The smell of a godslayer is indeed different, Lucrezia said, intoxicated with herself. To what extent is this old witch's thirst? Wu Chan said with a face full of disgust. He had a new understanding of this weird witch's hobby. At the same time, the news that Dustless had become a godslayer was unpredictable to the whole world. After all, the birth of a new king was too much of a concern. It could be said that Dustless's every move had affected some people's nerves. Dustless was speechless. These 2 perverts never cared about the occasion. Chapter 14:18. Dustless felt helpless. He knew that no matter if it was Erica or Lucrezia who liked to play this kind of game, Dustless could only complain. New king, what's your next step? Lucrezia looked at Dustless with a smile, pointed to the books of various mythological systems in his backpack, and said, Don't tell me you're really going to kill all the mythological systems. By the way, only by killing the god of disobedience can you get the corresponding authority. Kill all the gods. Not interested. I'm not that bored. Dustless shook his head. Being a godslayer was a spur of the moment. In fact, the authority of the gods was not much of a temptation to him. The only ones that could interest Dustless were those gods with rare authority. As for the next step, I plan to leave Sardinia and go to Japan, Dustless said faintly after getting dressed. Go to Japan? Erica and Lucrezia looked at each other. The latter did not have much of a reaction, but Erica was different. The birth of a new king would cause a lot of problems. For example, the ownership of the king's country might conflict with the local magic resistance. As you wish. Erica sighed softly. She still hoped that Dustless would stay in Italy and see his unshakable eyes. But after thinking about it, she decided not to. This world was recognized by the king, and the king would bear it. Erica did not need to say anything. There seems to be a special guest. Frowning slightly, Dustless looked at the window. There, he felt a gaze, and it was the kind that was not concealed. It was hard not to notice. The mysterious newcomer was a very beautiful girl, about 13 or 14 years old. On the surface, he had a childish and angelic face. His silver hair reached his shoulders and melted into the moonlight. His pupils were as dark as the night. At that time, they thought that there was no need to fight and left. Later, she met the guardian for the second time at the seaside in pursuit of the Gorgon stone. She was wearing a thin sweater and miniskirt, black knee-length socks, and a blue braided hat over her silver hair. God of disobedience? Erica and Lucrezia were stunned, especially Erica, who blushed in embarrassment. As a knight, she didn't even notice the enemy's intrusion. She looks like Athena. After staring at the innocent girl for a while, Dustless was surprised. Although Athena had appeared in Sardinia in the original work, she didn't seem to have any intersection with Kusanagi Protector. When it came to this, the atmosphere changed. It's rude to invade someone else's home, Miss God of Disobedience. Gently pouring himself a glass of red wine, Dustless said with a calm expression, "What's the matter?" They were just attracted by your fight. She stared at Dustless for a while. The God Slayer and the God of Disobedience are natural enemies. Is there a need for a battle of life and death? You're a war-loving God, daring to come to me. You're brave, but admirable. Dustless nodded, but he had no intention of fighting. Although I am a warmonger, I am not interested in your authority. Therefore, this boring duel, I refuse. A strenuous and thankless duel is very disgusting. Wu Chan waved his hand and said with deep disgust, "Forget it if we can't get any benefits from fighting for half a day." Dustless isn't interested in Athena's authority. This guy, compared to Dustless who remained calm, Erica was full of indescribable nervousness. There were even obvious sweat stains on both sides of her temples. Is it the Gorgon stone? Dustless frowned. He knew some secrets that no one else knew. That means you'll only fight when you meet the God of disobedience that you're interested in, one eccentric God Slayer. Athena said softly, and then her tone took a turn for the worse. You're looking down on me. Looking down? Dustless frowned. Although it was a bit far-fetched, it was an indisputable fact. It was because he looked down on her that he was not interested. Then what do you want? Dustless asked faintly. He had smelled Athena's hostility. Interesting. Athena's naturally cute little face had a playful look. Her body emitted a faint black light, releasing her godlike aura. Crock, crock, crock. The mirrors in the room, the household appliances, and all the wooden furniture were making a crock, crock sound, and there were clear cracks. Is this a god? So powerful. Erica and Lucrezia were embarrassed. Dustless, with his excellent vision, could even see the two girls' hair standing on end and sweat dripping down like raindrops. As expected of a god, but Dustless nodded slightly. Even he was faintly affected, but his strength was far beyond Erica and Lucrezia's, so even a god's deterrence had little effect on him. It was wishful thinking to use this to force Dustless to surrender. But attacking my friends and knights is still unforgivable. Dustless's face was obviously cold, and his eyes were cold. Unforgivable? Are you kidding? God Slayer. The corners of Athena's mouth curled up as she sneered. Although a God Slayer could defeat a god, you seem to have forgotten one thing. Even gods have different levels of strength. Athena said proudly. She had to admit that as a god of the Trinity, she did have the right to be proud. You're no different from the gods I killed. The only advantage is that you are prettier than them. Chapter 14:19. You're no different from the gods I killed. The only advantage is that you are prettier than them. However, Dustless did not buy it. In Dustless's eyes, Athena was no different from Mercado and Welslana. They were all gods, and there was no difference in strength. Anyway, the end result would be the same. You are very different from the other gods' layers. The deterrents released all blasted onto Dustless, and an invisible force distorted his surroundings. Ka-ka-ka. The floor under Dustless's feet burst open. His whole body seemed to be hundreds of times heavier, and the ground collapsed. However, from his calm expression, it was not difficult to see that he was not affected. This is too boring. After a while, Dustless sighed and said, Now you are not at your peak. I don't feel hungry defeating you. Come and find me when you have recovered your strength. Dustless waved his hand and looked at Athena as if she was a noob. Although I don't know how strong you are, I'm sure that your talking skills are profound and powerful. Athena's small face flashed with fierceness. Gods were not easily angered, but once they were, the consequences were extremely serious. You are just a god slayer. Athena raised her hand, and a purple-black high-density energy attack came at him. You want to hurt me with your filthy light? You are too naive. Dustless was not afraid at all, and then suddenly changed the topic and said, However, it is not a bad choice to use you to familiarize myself with Welslana's ability. As for Mercado's power, Dustless had already chosen to ignore it. You little brat, you want to use me as a whetstone? Athena's mouth twitched, and she suddenly felt that this human in front of her was not an ordinary one. I am merciful enough to play with you. You should thank me. Dustless smiled faintly. A light flashed in his hand, and a glittering golden sword appeared in an instant. Then he glanced at the purple-black fog that flew at him, and the golden sword swept out. Poochie, as if he was cutting vegetables, he crushed and destroyed them as casually as taking a stroll. That sword seems to be. Athena's pupils shrank, and her eyes became dim and empty. She seemed to have sunk into her memories. She seemed to be familiar with Dustless's golden sword. This is the golden sword, one of Welslana's powers. Dustless looked at Athena, who had some impression of the golden sword, and told her everything with a smile. You have to be careful. Other than this clone, I have 9 more. You idiot, you'd better know when to stop. Before his voice had died away, Erica had pounced on Dustless with a dark face and covered his mouth with both hands. She scolded loudly. Are you an idiot? How dare you tell others about your authority? Your opponent is a god, and you can only win if you keep your trump cards. Erica wanted to cry. This guy was hopeless. Woo-woo. Dustless opened his mouth and roared, but his mouth was covered by Erica. After a long time, Erica still didn't understand what Dustless was trying to say. However, from his indifferent eyes, Erica could tell that he didn't care. Have you guys had enough? A cold voice sounded. Looking at the source of the voice, it was Athena who was ignored. At this moment, she was glaring at Dustless with an unfriendly expression. Athena was quite uncomfortable with her tone, as if she had eaten a fly. She couldn't even breathe properly. When a god was unhappy, someone would naturally be unlucky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several magic light balls swept over. The power and quantity of the magic light balls were greater than before. Oh no! Erica panicked. At this moment, she was still on top of Dustless. There was no time to stand up and dodge. She couldn't help but curse in her heart. She was still flirting with Dustless when facing a powerful enemy. In a trance, Erica even saw the shadow of death. Hum, hum, hum. When Erica was in despair, the void around her suddenly rippled like water temperature, and a weak small hole with waves of gravity appeared. God's power! As soon as Dustless finished speaking, the small vortex became several times bigger and turned into a small black hole. The gravity directly absorbed Athena's power. Then the space closed, and everything returned to normal. What is this? Both Erica and Lucrezia were stunned, including Athena. She looked at Dustless speechlessly and hesitantly. Are you sure this is the power of Velislana? This place is a bit small. It's not good to burn Miss Lucrezia's house. Dustless stood up and dusted off his clothes, looking at the always expressionless Athena. Only the strong have the right to talk, Athena said calmly. Athena said calmly, still maintaining absolute confidence. Although the Godslayer could kill gods, they were not invincible. You've misunderstood. If we fight here, Miss Lucrezia's house will inevitably be damaged. So, in order to avoid causing her losses, I can only kill you instantly. Dustless said coldly with a cold light in his eyes. You bastard. Athena was furious at Dustless's words. If he could kill her instantly, why would he change the venue? What did this mean? Dustless wanted to play with her. Athena reacted violently to his blatant contempt and disdain. A black scythe appeared in her hand, flickering with a sharp and dazzling light. If you can defeat me, then go ahead and try. With that, Athena charged over without caring about the consequences. She was a warmonger, and the blood of battle flowed in her body. It was her nature to challenge the strong. Chapter 14:20. Erica was so nervous that her fists were sweating. She knew the exact location of what Athena wanted, and she couldn't hide it even if she wanted to. Human tricks were nothing to Athena. To put it bluntly, they were just asking to be humiliated. If I say we have to change, then we have to change. You don't have a choice. Dustless didn't give Athena a chance to react. His body flashed fiercely, and the dazzling golden light made everyone close their eyes. Athena was no exception. She hated the light that could chase away the night more than anyone else. Who caught me? Sensing that her arm was being attacked, Athena panicked. There was only a blurry, glowing figure in front of her. Due to the speed, she didn't know who it was. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Then, she was forcefully pulled away at an unprecedented speed. In less than a second, she crossed thousands of meters and arrived at a desolate land. The light also took the initiative to pull away from Athena. That was, looking around at the unfamiliar environment, Athena was a little dazed. It was just a blink of an eye. She felt as if she had run thousands of miles away. Your authority is so enviable. Looking at Dustless, Athena knew that the person who forcefully dragged her away was this frivolous guy in front of her. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Dustless. Thank you for sparring with me. Dustless thanked her seriously. It wasn't a bad idea to find someone who was familiar with Velislana's authority. Even with Athena's otherworldly character, she was infuriated by Dustless at this moment. How dare he find a powerful god to be his sparring partner? Outrageous. Athena felt like she was being belittled. Don't look so angry. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Dustless gave her a reassuring look. Unexpectedly, Athena only snorted. Then let me see if you have the ability. With that, Athena floated in the sky, holding the shining ghost scythe tightly in her hand. She turned into a blur and pounced forward. The cold light was about to cut through Silver's head. Frowning slightly, Dustless's eyes flashed with displeasure. Too weak. Even if you're a cameo, you have to be professional. Please be more serious. Clang, clang, clang. Dustless grabbed the scythe with his bare hands and whispered, Act more seriously. Maybe I'll give you the Gorgon Stone for free when I'm in a good mood. Arrogant. Hearing this, Athena's expression turned cold, and the strength in her hands involuntarily increased by several times, forcing Dustless to retreat repeatedly. Good. Wu Chen's eyes shone with awe-inspiring light, and he immediately activated the authority of Mighty Bull. A powerful force flowed through his body, and Wu Chen suddenly felt that his bull's strength had increased by dozens of times. Go back. Athena's expression was ugly. She did not expect Dustless's strength to be so great that she could force him to retreat. What was worse was that when her strength increased, Dustless's strength would also increase. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless suddenly coughed twice. He pointed his left arm to the sky and said, For victory, Come to me, undying sun. Please bestow upon me the shining steed, the spirited steed. Bring forth your master's wheel of light. Woo, woo, woo. The sky suddenly lit up. Looking up, under Athena's shocked gaze, a flaming horse's whinny resounded through the sky. It's those hateful horses, Athena said solemnly. Obviously, she had a good impression of this authority. Sensing the danger, she took the initiative to distance herself from Dustless. It's average, but it's not bad, Dustless said with a smile. To some extent, Ardent Sun and Athena were natural enemies that could not be reconciled. I can only take it head on. A green-faced fanged shield appeared in Athena's hand. She raised it above her head. It seemed like she was going to use it to defend herself. Boom, boom, boom. The flaming horse charged at the stone shield with full force. The ground under Athena's feet cracked. The powerful force pressed Athena into the ground. Well, I said, if you want to take advantage of the situation, Athena interrupted Dustless. Her big eyes looked coldly at Dustless. His body began to change, losing a lot of water. You don't know how to be kind at all. Also, what's wrong with my body? Dustless pursed his lips. He had planned to go easy on Athena. After all, he did not have a deep grudge against her. However, Dustless found that his body was turning into stone. All right, this guy's eyes seem to be able to turn everything he sees into stone. Even people. Dustless was more or less interested. It was a good ability to turn an enemy into stone with just a glance. If he was caught off guard, he would be petrified before he could react. Get out of my way. With a roar, Athena's body exploded with a powerful force. It actually offset the destructive waves from the white horse. Athena even felt that it was unbelievable after it was over. Could it be that this guy went easy on me? Athena looked at the petrified Dustless suspiciously. At the same time, Dustless's body was gradually petrified. His lower body almost turned into stone. It was about to corrode his upper body and occupy it. Athena was both the war god and the goddess of wisdom. She could see through the opponent's personality and divine power. As the god of darkness, she had the highest level of power. She could control snakes and summon owls. She also had the power of the evil eye that could turn everything into stone. As the master of the underworld, she could use the death god's curse or expand the domain of darkness to block vision and create a shield. Let's stop here. Athena smiled. Just as she was about to leave, Dustless's sudden action stunned her. Chapter 14:21. In the long river of time, there were countless people who had left a deep impression on Athena, but the most unforgettable one was still the handsome young man in front of her. It was as if he was branded in the depths of her soul. Ka. Dustless shattered his petrified lower body and looked at Athena expressionlessly, not caring at all. Are you crazy? Your body will be completely destroyed if you do that. Athena said in shock. She secretly cursed him for being an idiot. Such a rash action was equivalent to self-mutilation. Crazy? What you think is inconceivable is just a small matter to me. Hearing this, Dustless snorted disdainfully and retorted, the shocking thing in your eyes is just a trivial matter in my eyes. Then, Dustless's body underwent an inconceivable change. Large amounts of white liquid flowed out of his body, replenishing the damaged parts. Athena could already guess what was going to happen next. This is impossible. Where did he come from? Why does he have so many abilities that even the gods are jealous of? Athena was confused. What happened to Wu Qin's body proved her conjecture. His broken body was restored to its original state. I'm the same as you. I have an immortal body. No matter what kind of attack I receive, I will recover. Dustless didn't say much. He just explained indifferently, as if he was narrating a trivial matter that wasn't worth mentioning. What is your name? Athena finally started to pay attention to Dustless. Dustless. Athena frowned and said without thinking, I don't think there is such a name. Don't think about it. I'm not a god. Dustless said disapprovingly. So what if he was a god? The number of gods that died in his hands could be used as a refugee camp. Your ability is also very strange. It doesn't seem to belong to authority. Athena guessed. She was a god of the Trinity. When she was the goddess of wisdom, she had the ability to see the other party's personality and divine power. With bright eyes, Athena stared at Dustless. Just as she was about to launch her ability to find out what was going on, the cold tone stopped her from doing so. There are some things that shouldn't be exposed. I advise you not to delve into it. Taking a deep look at Athena, Dustless said meaningfully, "Are you afraid that I will know your secret and see through your weakness?" Athena's eyes were full of contempt. "If that is the case, God Slayer, you are going to be in trouble. Little girls nowadays know God nowadays are really naive." Dustless shook his head and said bluntly, "Why is Pandora's box so popular?" That's because every living creature has a curious heart. They want to know what's hidden in Pandora. Perhaps it's some kind of treasure, perhaps it's... But when they open it, they discover that what's hidden in Pandora isn't a shiny jewel, nor is it an elixir of immortality. Instead, it's an endless calamity and despair. It's the source of evil. Do you understand what I mean? Athena frowned. As the goddess of wisdom, her intelligence was naturally not for show. "Are you saying that you're Pandora's box?" "Who knows?" Shrugging his shoulders, Wu Chan gave an ambiguous answer. "All in all, sometimes knowing too many secrets will make you feel that life is very torturous. Isn't it good to live in ignorance and happiness?" "That is you." Athena glared fiercely at Dustless. Although she refuted Dustless's ridiculous theory, she chose to obey in her heart. Understanding everything about Dustless's past might be a terrible thing. "Go to hell." A large cloud of black fog emerged from her hand, and the surrounding sky was covered. Dustless was also in the black fog, and his body was corroded. The damaged body was endlessly repaired. Just like Athena, immortal and indestructible, any wound could be healed. "You're too weak right now. Come and challenge me when you've recovered to your peak." Dustless glanced at Athena. He wasn't interested in her authority. Dustless was no exception to Athena's abilities. "Want to leave?" Athena was about to launch a large-scale attack, but she fainted without warning. "Sleep for a while." Rinnegan emitted a faint ripple, and majestic spiritual power invaded Athena's mind. She, who was full of fighting spirit, instantly closed her eyes and fell asleep. Plop! Athena fell on the soft grass, and Dustless was nowhere to be seen. "Next, I will go to Japan." Dustless whispered to himself. He originally wanted to see Luo Hao, but after thinking about it, he gave up. After the violent Bishop Luo knew that he had become a god slayer, he would fight with him for 300 rounds. Anyway, there was still a long time in the future, so there was no need to rush. At Lucrezia's home. "Is Athena done?" Erica and Lucrezia asked in unison. They were full of confidence in Dustless. Since he could come back safe and sound, it meant that Athena had failed. "Done. She is probably sleeping soundly now." Hearing this, Erica angrily picked up a glass of water and threw it at Dustless. Fortunately, his elemental body was able to dodge it, or his handsome face would be disfigured. "Why don't you kill her? Her power is no less than Wellislanis." Erica's pretty face darkened, and she even wanted to pull Dustless over to kill him. She suspected, "Are you bewitched by her beauty? I just don't like her." Dustless responded faintly, and sat on the sofa with his eyes closed. No one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 1422. Countless crows flew past Erica's head at Dustless's straightforward answer. She was speechless and conflicted. That was the power of a god, and it was better than nothing. But Erica knew that she could not persuade Dustless, so she could only let him be. One was a knight, and the other was a king. She could only obey Dustless's orders. She had no right to disobey. "Pack your luggage, Erica. We're going to Japan tomorrow." "As you command, my king." Erica knelt on one knee and made a gesture of obedience. Really, seeing this, Dustless shook his head. When Erica was serious, she was so serious that he did not even give her face. But when she was lazy, she was like a different person. "Ah, Don't you need to stay for a few more days? I'm still a little. No need. Erica glared at Lucrezia and scolded in her mind. Really? She's so flirtatious at her age. The world is so cold. At the same time, in another direction, in a dark and oppressive palace, an old man sat on the throne with a solemn expression. His expression was solemn and dignified, and he exuded a powerful aura. His eyes were green, and he looked like a hungry wolf that was about to devour its prey. Marquis Warban. On the carpet below, a silver-haired girl knelt on one knee. She did not even dare to breathe loudly. She did not even dare to look at the man on the throne. Her body was trembling as if she had encountered some super terrifying creature. Beads of cold sweat were dripping down her face. A new godslayer has appeared, Liliana Kranikar. The old man, who was called Marquis Warban, asked faintly. His tone was demonic and naturally oppressive. Liliana immediately tensed up and replied, "Yes, Marquis. The new godslayer is very powerful. He killed 2 gods easily." 2 gods. Curiosity flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes. He asked with interest, "What's his name?" Hearing this, Liliana's expression froze. She apologized. "I haven't found anything yet." Enough." Marquis Warban bellowed, not giving Liliana a chance to defend herself. He said coldly, "There will only be one exception and one disappointment. If we don't know his name and origin next time." Oof. At the same time, Liliana displayed the knowledge of a large number of white skeletons. She waved the steel saber in her hand. Her meaning was self-evident. "Understood, Lord Marquis. That guy is rushing to Japan. I'll go and investigate." Liliana, who was trembling in fear, quickly agreed. This was what it meant to be in the king's company. He could turn hostile in an instant. Furthermore, he could treat a loyal subordinate of many years as trash and kill her at any time. This was a king. 5 days later, at Japan International Airport, Erica and Dustless walked out side by side. Compared to Erica, who had many bags, Dustless was empty-handed. He didn't even have a backpack. The plastic bag in his hand was full of snacks. Beat * starred, letting a lady carry your luggage and not giving me anything to eat. You really deserve to die. Erica roared crazily, attracting the attention of a group of people who pointed at her and whispered. Dustless decisively put some distance between them. Does this guy have any gentlemanly demeanor? Erica was speechless. Realizing that she had lost her composure, she quickly calmed down. "Where are we going?" Erica approached Dustless. Resisting the urge to beat him up, she grabbed a handful of popcorn from Dustless and stuffed it into her mouth. "Where are we going?" Dustless listened. This question was really difficult for him. He shrugged and said, "Actually, I don't know where to go either." Puffed. The popcorn that she had just swallowed was spurted out in an instant. Erica's face and ears turned red as if her throat was blocked. She quickly grabbed the water bottle in Wu Chen's hand and gulped down a few mouthfuls of water, suppressing her murderous rage. "Then what are you going to do? Sleep on the street?" Erica only felt that the future was dark. This king's strength was not bad. As for other aspects, where to go is indeed a problem. Dustless nodded slightly, lowered his head and thought for 2 seconds, then said, "Let's go to Kusanagi Protector's place. I gave him a lot of money. He will definitely treat me well." Then, Dustless took Erica and ran to Kusanagi Protector's house. Dustless was still somewhat familiar with the route to his house. Kusanagi Protector? Erica showed a blank expression. There was no such person in her memory. He has changed from the first protagonist to the first passerby. Of course you know him. Dustless chuckled. Kusanagi Protector had been dismissed by him with 10 billion yen. Erica and Dustless were not ordinary humans. After a while, they came to the door of Kusanagi Protector's house, but it was different from Dustless's memory. Did we come to the wrong place? Did someone die in his house? Erica was suspicious. There were wreaths in front of Kusanagi Protector's house. Obviously, someone had just died. Dustless stammered for a long time without saying anything. He didn't know either. "Don't worry about it. Let's go in and have a look." Erica nodded and followed dustless into the room. "Who are you?" A clear voice came. Looking around, Kusanagi Protector's sister slowly walked in. Her eyes were red, and she was extremely sad. Dustless, however, stared at the portrait in the room in shock. F***CK. Is it because my eyesight is seriously overdrawn? The one hanging on the portrait is Kusanagi Protector? Wu-chan said in astonishment in his heart, blowing up a violent storm. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.